Chapter 1361. Since Li Xiaoyan was so calm, Jing Yunjiao would not make things difficult for herself. She ate happily, but Wang Rushan and Li Rui's gazes became sharper. Xiaoyun, this Miss Yi is your mother's savior. You have to thank her in the future. Oh, right, her name is Yi Chu. Your mother just acknowledged her as her goddaughter, so she'll be your godsister in the future, Li Rui said casually. Jing Yunjiao looked up at Yi Chu and pursed her lips into a smile. This woman's motive was obvious. From the moment she appeared, she had been looking at her man lovingly. However, her appearance was not bad. Her features were picturesque, and she was a pretty girl from a humble family. She even had a bit of charm. Her temperament was the complete opposite of Wang Rushan's. Her figure was even better. Although she was shorter than Wang Rushan, she was more delicate. Wang Rushan guessed that many men would want to hold her in their arms and take good care of her. Brother Xiaoyun, I'll have to trouble you to take care of me in the future, Yi Chu said. Her soft voice, coupled with her slightly shy appearance, was indeed captivating. Jing Yunjiao tilted her head and looked at Li Xiaoyan. She smiled and said, Hubby, your godsister is calling you. Li Xiaoyan paused. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes when he saw her. He seemed to be very satisfied with her jealousy. Mother, it's better to be careful. Nowadays, there are many unclear relationships between godfathers and goddaughters. Don't raise an ingrate. Also, it has nothing to do with me if you two acknowledge each other as godparents. Tell her not to call me so cloyingly. It annoys me. You know how I deal with those messy women. Li Xiaoyan raised his head and said coldly. His words made Yi Chu's face turn from red to purple. Wang Rushan was so angry that she held her breath. She turned and glared at Yi Chu. The media liked to spout nonsense. If they knew that her husband had a goddaughter, she did not know how they would mock her. Some words would get uglier the more they were said, but they could also become the truth. It was just that she really liked Yi Chu. She was gentle and weak, very obedient, and had even saved her life before. She wasn't as strong as Jing Yunjiao. If she could be together with her son, then everyone would be happy. Godmother. No, Auntie Li, don't think too much. Since young Master Li is unwilling, then I won't force him. Anyway, I didn't ask for anything else when I saved you. It's already my fortune to be able to meet you. A comforting smile appeared on Yi Chu's handsome face, which made Wang Rushan feel a sense of guilt. This girl was so kind-hearted, but she had actually thought of something crooked. She really shouldn't have. My dear daughter, you saved my life. Xiaoran has grown up and is not close to me. Anyway, you don't have parents. It's just right for you to stay with me in the Li clan. Wang Rushan quickly patted Yi Chu's hand and continued, Xiaoyan has a cold personality, but he's actually very sensible. Don't worry, he won't bully you. Son, I've never asked you for anything in my life. Just this one. Treat little Chu well in the future. Don't use your bad habits on her. Otherwise, I really don't want to live anymore, Wang Rushan added. As for those bad habits, when Wang Rushan thought back to the past, she felt a chill run down her spine. In the past, her son would go back a few times a month. At that time, she would specially introduce girls to him. However, every time that happened, her son would not hesitate to send the dogs to chase them away. Some of them were bitten by his battle wolves until they were covered in blood. Some of them broke their front teeth when they ran away. In short, they were miserable. However, he always said that a woman who could not even beat a dog was not worthy of him. Chapter 1362. Wang Rushan's expression was soft and slightly begging. It seemed that she had made a big concession. If the Su family didn't know that Li Xiaoyan was not close to these parents, they would have slammed the table and left. Marriage always concerned the two families. If Jing Yunjiao had to spend every day with such a mother-in-law, it would be better for her not to get married in this life. Li Xiaoran didn't care much about Yi Chu at first. He even had no desire for his parents. However, at this time, his mother introduced another girl to him in front of the Su family and the Jing family. It was really unbearable. He put down the things in his hand and looked at Yi Chu from head to toe. The disgust in his eyes was self-evident. Mother, are you serious? Without Miss Yi, you won't live? Li Xiaoyan looked up and stared at Wang Rushan with a serious face. Wang Rushan felt a little uneasy in her heart. She knew that she couldn't take back what she had said. After thinking about it, she nodded. Son, you've been working outside for so many years. The number of times I see you every month can be counted on one hand. I clearly have a son, but my son inexplicably became someone else's. Do you know how much pain I've had in my heart all these years? Although I haven't known Xiao Chu for long, these days have been the happiest days of my life. This child is filial, even better than my own. She was the daughter-in-law of the Li family, but who had looked her in the eye? Many people despised her because of her low birth. They said one thing on the surface and another behind her back. Only Yi Chu treated her wholeheartedly. Usually, she would accompany her to go shopping. Even if she was busy for the whole day, she would not say a word of tiredness. During the days she lived in the Li family, she would personally cook some sumptuous meals every day. With just one look, Yi Chu could understand her thoughts. She never showed any expression. Her gentle appearance reminded her of herself in the past. She couldn't bear to be cruel to such a girl. If she could get closer to her son, she would be satisfied no matter what she had to do. However, old Master Li's expression darkened when he saw Wang Rushan complaining in front of so many people. Mother, since you can't do without her and even think that she's better than me, then from today onwards, let her accompany you at home. However, there are gains and losses. In the future, Zhao and I won't disturb you and your daughter. In addition, the few cards I left with you will all be frozen. It's not a problem for me to support you, but in the future, I will have a wife. There's no reason for me to use my own money to support an unrelated person for you, right? Li Xiaoyan said politely. However, when Wang Rushan heard this, her expression changed drastically. What? You want to take the card back? Wang Rushan asked subconsciously, agitated. Of course. Back when you married my father, you had already interfered with my father's assets. Now that Zhao is my future wife, she naturally has the right to control and possess all my assets, Li Xiaoyan said matter-of-factly. He had already told Jingyan Zhao how many assets he had a long time ago. He had even expressed that he would transfer everything under her name. It was just that he was rejected by Zhao. However, even at that time, he did not touch the money that he had left for his parents. Although he did not have deep feelings for his parents as a child, he had a certain responsibility. Since he was a teenager, he had been giving his parents a portion of his monthly expenses. However, it seemed that it was time to stop now. Chapter 1363. Li Xiaoyan's net worth was not low. Just the amount of real estate he owned was already astonishing. He owned properties and even manors all over the world, and he invested in all kinds of things. On the surface, he looked like a poor soldier, but in reality, he was a hidden tycoon. Jing Yunzhao even saw a few small islands on his property list. All of his funds added together might not be less than hers. He was not a businessman, but his mind was more shrewd than any businessman's. Therefore, Jing Yunzhao did not need Li Xiaoyan to explain in detail. He must have given his parents a lot of pocket money every month. Wang Rushan and Li Peixian's expressions changed, especially Wang Rushan. Her lips trembled, and her hand that was holding the chopsticks trembled. Xiaoyan, your father's monthly salary is not enough to cover the expenses, Wang Rushan said with a face full of shock. Li Peixian's position was indeed quite high, and his monthly salary was not small. However, the Li family's monthly expenses were not low, and there were so many servants and aunties in the family, as well as all kinds of connections. If it were not for her son's money, they would not be able to make ends meet. Li Peixian's job was not profitable at all. His ability was average, but he had a big heart. Li Junwei and Li Xiaoyan were not stupid enough to let him get any benefits, lest he bring trouble to the Li family. Therefore, Li Peixian had only received a small salary over the years, and the rest of his income was only small gifts and small red packets. Mother, father is not old, and there are still many years before he retires. I think it's more than enough to support you. As for me, I have to support my wife and children, Li Xiaoyan continued. But I'm your mother. Xiaoyan, how can you be so cruel? You know how much our family's expenses are. Your dad's dead salary isn't even enough for food and drinks, let alone ordinary expenses. Wang Rushan hurriedly said. A sarcastic smile appeared on Li Xiaoyan's face. He leaned back and scrutinized his mother. He said with a smile, when mother was not with my father, although you did not live a poor life, you were just below the top and above the bottom. All these years, I have tried my best to be filial to you, but everything has a limit. In the past, you used to grab the hands of many women and call them your daughter. Now, you bring back a daughter every 2 to 3 days. Even if I have a mountain of gold, I am afraid it is not enough to squander. If it was really just raising a person, then there was no problem. With his ability, not to mention one, even if there were thousands or tens of thousands of people, it would be completely fine. However, what made him unhappy was that his mother kept attracting all sorts of people with bad intentions back home. If the person in front of him was not his biological mother, he would have mercilessly scolded her as stupid. If his mother had not married into the Li family, but into an ordinary family, she would definitely have lived a happy and satisfied life. She would definitely be a good woman. Unfortunately, she had become Li Junwei's daughter-in-law. Her grandfather's identity was astonishing, and he had countless assets. The Li family status was very high, and everyone respected him. However, she could only rely on this reputation to live. She could not get what she wanted at all. Therefore, she was dissatisfied and greedy. Wang Rushan's heart ached. In the past, she had indeed found many women and called them her daughter, but that was only because she wanted to find a good wife for her son. Who would have thought that her son would be so repulsed? Is it because of little Chu? Then this goddaughter. I won't acknowledge her. Wang Rushan was anxious, but she still said it in the end. Chapter 1364. Hearing Wang Ruchun's words, even though Jing Yunjiao didn't laugh out loud out of respect, her heart couldn't help but sigh. A moment ago, Wang Rushan was still saying that she couldn't live without Yichu. The next moment, she threw her goddaughter away for the sake of money. In the end, what she wanted was money, not the so-called familial love. Even when she introduced girls to Li Xiaoyan, her purpose was very clear. She wanted to find someone easy to control, someone who would be respectful to them in the future. Rather than looking for a daughter-in-law, it was more like looking for a marionette. She did not care about Li Xiaoyan's feelings at all. Oh, you don't want your goddaughter anymore? Li Xiaoyan raised the corner of his lips sarcastically. Son, aren't you forcing me to do this? If you don't provide for the household expenses, how can I afford the servants at home in the future? Won't they lose their jobs then? Wang Rushan also felt embarrassed and said in a low voice. In the Li family, there were only 2 people, Li Peixian and Wang Rushan. However, there were many servants, drivers, and security guards. All the standards were compared to other wealthy families. The food and drink were absolutely luxurious. At this time, seeing his mother like this, Li Xiaoyan frowned. Originally, he just wanted to warn his parents, but now, it made him make up his mind. When he was in his teens, his parents complained about being poor in front of him. At that time, although his relationship with his parents was not very good, he was still soft-hearted, so he gave them some money. However, thinking about it carefully, it might be that his indulgence at the beginning had caused his parents to be in their current state. Especially his mother. Although she used to exude a petty aura, she was not a bad person and could be considered reasonable. However, those bad habits had become worse. Mother, you don't have to say anything about this matter. Since you have just made a decision, you should be responsible for your decision now. I think father's monthly money should be enough for you. As for those servants, they should be dismissed. It's enough to leave a cook. Li Xiaoyan's attitude left no room for refutation. Wang Ruchun had some hope and doubts just now. She felt that her son would not be so ruthless, but when she heard it again, her heart fell to the bottom of the valley. It was pitifully broken. Her husband's salary was only a few thousand yuan a month. Other people had hidden income, but her husband did not. At most, he would have some money in his account. However, even with all that, it would only be about 10,000 yuan. How could she live with that? He wasn't afraid of his funds shrinking. What he was afraid of was that it would be reduced by tens of times. Suddenly, Wang Rushan became absent-minded. How could she have the energy to torment Jing Yunzhao? Jing Yunzhao was happy to be idle, and he would not take the initiative to hit the muzzle of the gun. However, during the meal, he could not help but take a few more glances at Yi Chu. "Miss Yi, are you from the capitals?" Jing Yunzhao asked casually. She did not know why, but she felt that there was something wrong with the way Yi Chu looked at her. There was some hatred in his eyes. Even if he suppressed it to the extreme, she was a martial artist after all. She could still feel the faint murderous intent. If it was the first time they met, it was rare for there to be such strong emotions in it. That was why she felt it was a little strange. "Yes, I'm from the capital. However, I'm not as lucky as Miss Jing. I was born in a prestigious family. My parents were just ordinary people. Due to some accident, they passed away early." Yi Chu smiled and said amiably. Chapter 1365. Yi Chu did not seem to be affected by the words just now. It was as if everything had nothing to do with her. A normal girl would not do this. After all, everyone had their own pride. Li Xiaoyan despised her presence. Even if she was a person with a little backbone, she would definitely show some dissatisfaction. Even if she did not leave in anger, there would be some discomfort on her face. However, Yi Chu did not. She was still smiling gently like before. Her appearance was lovable. "Missy seems to know me very well." Jing Yunzhao chuckled. Her eyes were filled with scrutiny. "Miss Jing, who doesn't know your name? There are many stories about you on the internet, so I know a little about you," Yi Chu said again. "Is that so? Although you say that, I don't know why, but I feel that you know me differently." Jing Yunzhao seemed to have a deeper meaning as she continued. "Miss Yi, since you know some of my past deeds, then logically speaking, you should at least be a little curious about me. Even if you aren't curious at all, you should still pay more attention to me instead of secretly sending flirtatious glances at my man." Li Xiaoyan's identity was relatively low-key. Other than a few people who were deeply involved with the military, almost no one else knew about his job. Even if they knew that he came from a wealthy family, they would not know the details. Yi Chu, on the other hand, was extremely famous. When the two of them stood together, passers-by might be stunned by Li Xiaoyan's appearance, but they would definitely be more curious about her in the next moment. However, Yi Chu did not. She looked at Yi Chu with disdain and disgust. She rarely stopped. Most of the time, she was mainly staring at Li Xiaoyan. "Miss Jing, you must have misunderstood, right? I'm closer to Auntie Li, so I'm curious about young Master Li. If I've caused a misunderstanding, then I'm really sorry. It's all my fault." Yi Chu took a step back in her attitude. Many people had used the tactic of taking a step back in order to advance in front of Jing Yunzhao. Hence, it was nothing to her. "Since you know that you've caused a misunderstanding, then I'll have to trouble you to lower your head and not open your eyes. After all, this is my man. I don't like him being peeped at by women who make me uncomfortable. Otherwise, I'll really want to dig your eyes out." Jing Yunzhao became even more domineering. If it was a normal man, he would definitely sympathize with Yi Chu's weakness. He might even think that she was overbearing. However, Li Xiaoyan's taste had always been different. "Miss Jing, don't you think you're going too far? My eyes are on my face. I just want to see some people and things that move my heart. Can I do that? If that's the case, won't you have to use something to hide young Master Li when you go out in the future?" Yi Chu said, feeling wronged. "It would be best if you could hide it." However, there aren't many people as thick-skinned as Missy in this world, so there's no need for it. Jing Yunzhao smiled coldly and showed no mercy. The corner of Yi Chu's mouth twitched. It was obvious that she was suppressing her emotions. However, she quickly calmed down. "Miss Jing really knows how to joke. You're 1 year older than me. I originally wanted to take this opportunity to make friends with you." After she finished speaking, she glanced at Li Xiaoyan with a slightly wronged and affectionate look. She continued, Miss Jing has a straightforward temper. She's really worthy of being the boss of a few big companies. Her aura is nothing compared to a man's. Young Masterly, you're really lucky. She did not believe that men would like someone like Jing Yunjiao. Chapter 1366. The men in this world would only have the desire to conquer a strong woman and would not have the desire to protect her. Jing Yunjiao now had so many companies in her hands. She would definitely have a lot of subordinates under her control. If this continued, her temper would definitely become very strange. Li Xiaoyan was also not an ordinary man. Whether it was his background, appearance, or even ability, they were all outstanding. A person like this would definitely not be willing to be under a woman. I am indeed lucky, but I don't need you to tell me that. However, Li Xiaoyan did not give him face. You don't need to act dumb. Zhao's intentions are clear. She doesn't know you well and doesn't like you, so please get up and leave. Otherwise, my Zhao will lose her appetite. Li Xiaoyan did not even raise his head as he spoke. He even handed Jing Yunjiao food with a gentle expression. That's right. Xiaoyan knows me well. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. Yi Chu was stunned. Young Masterly, did I do something wrong? That's true. I shouldn't have made Miss Jing unhappy. After all, I am different from Miss Jing. She is a genius, while I am just an ordinary girl. I am already lucky to have the opportunity to meet old Masterly and taste such delicious food. Since Miss Jing doesn't like it now, it's fine if I leave. After speaking, Yi Chu stood up awkwardly. He walked away with an enduring sadness look on his face. Wang Rushin could not even take care of herself at the moment. Naturally, she did not think of asking Yi Chu to stay. Yi Chu did not have such thoughts either. He had come here today to take the opportunity to get to know Li Xiaoyan and find out about his personality, habits, and even tastes. However, it seemed that Jean Iran was right. Li Xiaoyan was indeed a tough nut to crack. It wouldn't be that easy. Yi Chu clenched her fists slightly, but there was a smile on her face. She still had time. She did not believe that Li Xiaoyan would continue to spoil Jing Yunjiao so much. People's relationships had a time limit. Li Xiaoyan and Jing Yunjiao had been together for a long time. There would be a day when he would get tired of her. There would also be a day when they would quarrel. She would have another chance in the future. After Yi Chu left, the room became much more peaceful. Even if the elders of the Li family were not very likable, they would not be able to cause any trouble with the old master around. Li Peixian and Wang Rouchun's minds were currently occupied by the pocket money, while Li Ying and Li Rui were two completely different people. The former was steady and serious, and was very cooperative towards the old man. She could also talk to the Su family. Although she might not be sincere, at least she had some misgivings in her heart, so she wouldn't do anything that would be disadvantageous to Jing Yunjiao. As for Li Rui, she was a little impetuous and arrogant. She lost her appetite after eating a few mouthfuls. She sat at the side and wasted time. Since the old man didn't leave, she didn't have the temper to leave first. Although my darling is still in school, it doesn't prevent her from getting married. If it's up to me, I think we should hold the wedding when she's 20 years old. When she graduates from university, we can consider having a child. The timing is just right. What do you think? Old Masterly said. Old Master Su frowned when he heard that. Isn't it a little too early? If my good baby doesn't want to have another child, I'll make do with one. I won't force you. In addition, the wedding should be as grand as possible. Once my good baby marries into the family, my property declaration will take effect immediately. Only my grandson and granddaughter-in-law are worthy of all the things that I, Li Junwei, have earned in my life. Even if they can't live together in the future, I won't take back those things. I'll give my good baby everything that should be given to my good baby. Chapter 1367. The statement of property mentioned by Old Masterly was referring to the will. When Jing Yunjiao heard it, she was shocked and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Grandpa Li, why are you saying this? Don't tell me I'm doing this for those things of yours? Jing Yunjiao also felt a little helpless as she rebuked him. Good girl, Grandpa knows that you are filial and sensible, but I still have to prepare the things that should be prepared. I am old and may not live as long as Chiyugwa. In order to avoid causing trouble for you in the future, it's best to make everything clear now. Li Junwei was very open-minded. Jing Yunjiao studied medicine and could see through a person's lifespan. Old Master Li's body was very strong. Although he might not live as long as Chiyugwa, it was definitely no problem for him to live over 100 years. Besides, there was still her, a doctor. Even if she couldn't change fate, she could still prolong the life of the people around her. However, old Master Li was convinced that there would be accidents. What he was most afraid of was that if there was a sudden problem in the future, his children would come to compete with his grandson and granddaughter-in-law for property. It was not that he was reluctant to give this property to his children, but that he couldn't give it to them. How could he not know what his own children were like? His daughter was still all right. Although she liked to cause trouble, she was somewhat shrewd. She would not suffer losses and would not do anything stupid. However, his son and daughter-in-law were too useless. After they had more money, their lives would only become more meaningless. He did not know what they would do. Li Junwei said it in front of so many people, just to let Li Peixian and Wang Rishan give up. Looking at the couple, they had lost count of how many times they had been dumbfounded. Li Peixian was fine. Even if he was greedy, he also respected and feared his father, so he just felt uncomfortable in his heart and smiled dryly on the surface. But Wang Rishan was stimulated again and again, and she was about to faint. My Yunjiao has the ability to make money on her own, so she doesn't care about those things. But in order to avoid future trouble, it's better to make things clear now. Su Jingji readily agreed and continued, my granddaughter has been sensible since she was young. I used to be by my side, but I didn't recognize her. I feel a little guilty. And my daughter, although she never mentioned it, I know in my heart that she is gone. Fortunately, she still has a father. No matter what, as her elder, I hope that she will live a good life. I also hope to give her the grandest wedding as a memorial. These words were also in agreement with old Master Li's intention to hold a grand event. The two elders talked about the details again. Jing Yunjiao didn't understand these things, and she didn't need to worry about it at all, so she didn't listen. Jing Tianyi was her father after all, so he would occasionally chime in and express his own opinions. He was a very rational person, and the things he thought of were often carefully considered, so he also got the approval of the two elders. The marriage was officially set. For Jing Yunjiao, it was not much different from before. After all, no matter whether it was her family or the Li family, they treated her the same as before. There was no change. However, after the two sides left, there were some people who didn't want to eat or sleep, and their lives were tight. Li Shaoran did what he said. Not only did he no longer give the family money, but after he went back, he directly asked people to take away all the valuables he left at home and immediately froze all the cards in Wang Rishan's hands. Wang Rishan was used to spending extravagantly these years. In the past, when she bought things, she never even looked at the price. She would only think that it was cheap and not expensive. This sudden change instantly made her wilt, and she didn't know how to live her life. Chapter 1368. In the Li residence, Wang Rishan was sitting on the sofa, in a panic. Her eyes were red as she threw a few cards on the table in front of her and stared at them, feeling sad. Although Li Peixian knew his salary was not high, he had lived for decades and had never worried about money. Therefore, he did not take it to heart. The way he saw it, even if his son did not give him money, the family should still have a lot of savings. His life would not change too much. Therefore, as soon as he returned home, he rushed out of the house to socialize. He did not leave a single word of consolation for his wife. How can this be? He is obviously my son. Why doesn't he care about our relationship as mother and son? Wang Rishan said as she wiped her tears with a tissue. Young Master Li is just being muddle-headed. I believe he will remember your grievances and hardships over the years soon, Yi Chu said. When Wang Rishan found out that Yi Chu was only renting an apartment outside, she had already asked her to move in. Therefore, she was able to comfort her in time. Wang Rishen's tears kept falling. Everyone says that this son is useless. He forgot his mother after marrying a wife. They were right. That little vixen hasn't even married into the family yet, and Xiaoyan is already so biased toward her. If she really becomes a member of the Li clan in the future, won't she be worshipped like a Buddha? The more she thought about it, the more wronged she felt. She wanted to give Jing Yunjiao a good scolding. Although she did not come from a rich family, she was still a highly educated person. Therefore, after holding it in for a long time, she could not think of a single curse word. Instead, she became even angrier. Auntie Li, you already said that she is a vixen. Young Master Li is innocent. In any case, you are mother and son. Later on, you can give in. Young Master Li will definitely feel sorry for you, Yi Chu said. Little Chu, you don't know Xiaoyan. That child. Wang Rishen sighed and continued, although he is my biological son, I did not raise him. He only knows how to be filial to the old man. I don't exist at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't have embarrassed myself in front of so many people. I really regret giving birth to only one child. If Xiaoyan had a younger brother, I wouldn't be so lonely now, Wang Rishen said. Yi Chu scoffed inwardly. He had thought that everyone in the Li family would be very smart, but he didn't expect that other than Li Junwei and Li Xiaoyan, the others were completely no different from people from ordinary families. Especially this Wang Rishen. She was petty, and her only temperament was probably elegance. However, she still had some opinions. She had only known her for a few days, but she had already been completely controlled by her. She could easily change Wang Rishen's mood swings. It was really not challenging at all. Although this Wang Rishen was not a good person, her life was extremely good. She did not have the qualifications, but she was able to marry into such a family and even gave birth to such an outstanding son. It was a pity that this mother didn't even manage to grab hold of her own son. She had played such a good card. Auntie Li, don't you have me now? I lost my mother a long time ago. Although I haven't known you for long, I know that you treat me well. In the future, even if young Master Li isn't filial to you and me, don't be sad over these small things. I believe that one day, your son will realize your good intentions, Yi Chu comforted. Chapter 1369. Yi Chu was not stupid enough to speak ill of Li Xiaoyan in front of Wang Rishen. After all, even if she did not treat her son with sincerity, he was still from her womb. Compared to an outsider, her son was naturally closer. Hearing this, Wang Rishen nodded repeatedly and felt a little relieved. However, after a while, her eyes dimmed again. But Xiaoyan doesn't give us money now. What should we do? Don't you have any savings? Yi Chu was a little shocked. Even if the couple's assets were separated from old Master Li and Li Xiaoyan's with their status, they should have at least tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, right? With such a sum of money, as long as they spent it sparingly, it would not be a problem for them to survive. Where did the savings come from? Lil Chu, you don't know. Your Uncle Li has a lot of friends, and he cares about his reputation. Almost half of the time, every month, he treats people to meals. The cheapest meal costs over 1,000 yuan, and if there are more, it can cost over 100,000 yuan. We also have to change our clothes every month. Otherwise, how can we go out to meet people? Ordinary clothes are either made of poor materials or don't match our temperament, so they have to be custom-made. In addition, I have some friends who play mahjong with me every month, and I need some money for gambling. By the way, I have an appointment with my friends to go shopping tomorrow. Now, how can I afford it? Her friends would buy cosmetics, bags, shoes, and other things every time they went out. Although she did not like those things very much, she was afraid of losing face if she did not buy them. So, over the years, she had spent a lot on those things. A simple bag that cost tens of thousands was nothing to her in the past, but tomorrow, it would be a new product on the counter. The price would not be cheap. It was definitely not something that could be bought with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. In the past, she could just use her card, but now Wang Rishen sighed again and again. She was extremely agitated, like an ant on a hot pan. It was the first time Yi Chu had seen a rich man's wife like this. He was surprised and disdainful. "Auntie Lee, my parents left me some inheritance. Why don't you use it first?" Yi Chu asked tentatively to express his politeness. "How many?" Wang Rishan seemed to have caught a life-saving straw and asked quickly. Yi Chu was shocked. His expression was a little awkward, but he still said, "My parents are ordinary people, so they don't have much money. So I only have 500,000 in total. If you need it urgently, you can take it first and return it to me later." Of course, she had more than 500,000 yuan on her. Although she didn't have her own company like Jing Yunjiao, she had earned a lot from working with different men over the years. All the money and gifts she had received totaled up to tens of millions. Moreover, Jean Iran wasn't a stingy man. She could look for him to settle all her expenses. "Only 500,000? Wang Rishan said subconsciously. After saying that, he also felt that it was inappropriate, so he quickly smiled and said, "Little Chu, don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything else. I know, Auntie Lee. 500,000 is indeed a little too little for you, but I can't do anything about it. This is my parents' inheritance," Yi Chu emphasized again. Since Yi Chu had even taken out her inheritance, Wang Rishan could not bring herself to dislike her. Especially when she saw Yi Chu's sincere expression, she could not help but feel a little guilty. She quickly touched Yi Chu's hand to express her gratitude. Chapter 1370. Although 500,000 was not much to Wang Rishan, it was better than nothing. At least it could solve her urgent needs and not make her lose face when she went out the next day. Therefore, Wang Rishan directly took Yi Chu's card that day. The next morning, she dressed up and asked Yi Chu to go out with her. Wang Rishan's clothes were very elegant and showed off her good figure. She also had a temperament. She was wearing jewelry and did not look like she was short of money at all. When Yi Chu saw the things she was wearing, she was speechless. If Li Xiaoyan was a scumbag, she would have wanted Jing Yunjiao to marry into the family as soon as possible so that she could endure more of this mother-in-law's anger. "Little Chu, what you're wearing is really beautiful. You're no different from a noble lady." Wang Rishan looked at Yi Chu's clothes and said with satisfaction. Yi Chu was wearing a simple white lotus leaf dress. However, her appearance was pure, so it looked even more outstanding. Wang Rishan had bought this dress in the past and wanted to give it away as a gift. However, due to some matters, it was left at home and had not been used. The dress was not cheap. If it were not for the fact that she did not want Yi Chu to lose face when she went out today, she definitely would not have taken it out. At this moment, Wang Rishan seemed to have recovered her appearance as a noble lady. How was she still like yesterday when she was crying? She even followed the usual rules and asked the driver to send her out and meet her friends at a high-end restaurant. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao did not know how Wang Rishan looked like. However, as luck would have it, he also had plans to go shopping with Xiao Haiqing and Hu Tianxian today. Originally, Yao Bao also wanted to come, but she was currently in a relationship with Du Lin and was extremely happy. Every time she had time, she would go to Yu Tianxian to scrounge for food and accompany the busy Du Lin, so she didn't come along. As for Su Chu and Rin Xingyu, the former was participating in an art exhibition competition, while the latter was busy editing her own novel. They weren't as leisurely as Jing Yunjiao and the others. Of course, Xiao Haiqing's leisure was only temporary. Jing Yunjiao was her boss, so he could arrange her daily work reasonably. Otherwise, with her current popularity, she would have to squeeze in a lot of time to catch her breath. After the three of them left the house, they first went to Shintong's place for a beauty treatment. Then, they went to a Western restaurant recommended by Hu Tianxian to rest for a while. When it was about time, they planned to go shopping together to satisfy Hu Tianxian's shopping craze. However, not long after he sat down in the restaurant, Jing Yunjiao heard a familiar voice nearby. "This girl is so beautiful. Mrs. Li, is she your future daughter-in-law?" "Yes, her name is Yi Chu. This girl is very sensible, gentle, and educated. I like her very much." Jing Yunzhao heard the conversation and glanced around. Only then did she notice that 2 aisles away, a few upper-class ladies were sitting together. One of them had the back view of Wang Ro-chun. If it weren't for her good hearing, she probably wouldn't have heard this. Jing Yunzhao took a sip of tea and sneered. He didn't go up to greet them. That's not right. I heard from our family's old Wang, that old man, Li, seemed to have told a few elders that his granddaughter-in-law is Jing Yunzhao. She's the doctor who saved old Mr. Qi. In recent years, she's been quite famous. She seems to have opened a company and cured people. One of the women asked in confusion. At the mention of Jing Yunzhao, Wang Rushan's face darkened. Really? Then there must be some misunderstanding. Our family Xiaoyan has always listened to his grandfather's words. In order to repay old Mr. Qi's kindness in the past, the old man politely said that he liked Jing Yunzhao as his granddaughter-in-law, but it doesn't count. Chapter 1371. As soon as Wang Rushan said this, the people around her looked a little surprised and doubtful. They felt that something was wrong. The news had spread for a long time. They heard that old Master Li had said in front of many people that his great-grandson's surname would be Jing in the future. Although they didn't quite believe it, these words came from the mouth of some seniors in the military. It couldn't be, without any truth. At this time, Jing Yunzhao heard Wang Rushan's words clearly and felt a little uncomfortable. Yesterday, they were officially engaged. Today, her future mother-in-law actually denied her existence in front of others. She was really shameless. However, Jing Yunzhao was too lazy to argue with Wang Rushan. After all, she was an elder and Li Xiaoyun's biological mother. Now that they were outside, it would be embarrassing for both of them if they made a big fuss. Therefore, she didn't say anything. She even restrained some of her hearing and turned her attention to other places. Opposite Jing Yunzhao sat Xiao Haiqing. Next to her sat Hua Tianxian. Xiao Haiqing was fully armed with a mask, sunglasses, and a baseball cap. This shop is very quiet. No one will take a picture of you. I think you should take these things off. Hua Tianxian looked at Xiao Haiqing and felt tired. Being a celebrity was not a simple thing. At the very least, there was less personal freedom. Xiao Haiqing looked around and made sure that there were no paparazzi secretly taking pictures. Then, she took off the mask and sunglasses and breathed a sigh of relief. Do you think I like to wear these? It's all because of the paparazzi nowadays. A few days ago, I was talking to a director and sat in a coffee shop for a while. Who knew that a few hours later, someone would report that I was in a relationship? Fortunately, the director is not married. Otherwise, the rumors would be even worse. Even if it was fake, it would become true. Is the director handsome? If he's not bad, you can just put up with it. Hua Tianxian stirred the coffee in her hand and said with a smile, the longer you work in this line, the harder it is to find a partner. If there is someone with good conditions, you should consider it early. You better not try to persuade me. Now I still have to focus on my career. I won't be like you, infatuated with a man who is slow to react. Xiao Haiqing raised her eyebrows and said proudly, So, what if I have no regrets? At the very least, it means that I'm loyal. Besides, I'm trying my best to grasp the happiness of my life. It's something worth praising. Hua Tianxian paused, glanced at Jing Yunzhao, and continued, You and Jing Yunzhao are the same. You want to be a strong woman, but Jing Yunzhao is lucky to meet her Mr. Li, who can tolerate and support her. But what about you? The stronger the woman, the further away the man will be from her. Don't tell me you don't know this principle. Be careful that you won't be able to get married in the future. With Jing Yunzhao's appearance, there should be countless men chasing after her. But in reality, there really aren't many. Isn't the main reason why this is because she's too capable and makes people feel pressured? Although there are many people who admire her in school, most of them admire her with some respect or bad intentions. There aren't many who truly like her. It's not that independent girls aren't likable, but Xiao Haiqing's personality may seem carefree and easy to get along with, but in reality, she's as guarded as Jing Yunzhao. As she grows older, her guard will only become heavier, and the chances of her finding a partner will become smaller and smaller. Hua Tianxian's words weren't without reason. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but worry for Xiao Haiqing. Haiqing, you haven't met anyone who even slightly moves you? Jing Yunzhao asked after a few seconds. Chapter 1372. Jing Yunzhao's face was serious and concerned. Xiao Haiqing's expression was a little awkward. After a while, she shook her head. Not really, Xiao Haiqing said. This ambiguous answer made Jing Yunzhao feel a little strange. His eyebrows instantly furrowed and he directly asked, "What do you mean by not really?" "It means it's almost the same as not really. Although I've met a good person, our identities don't match, so it's better to keep a distance," Xiao Haiqing thought for a while and said. In the past, she would tell Jing Yunzhao everything, but this time, she really couldn't bring herself to say it. Anyway, she wouldn't allow herself to mess around. Since that was the case, it was better to pretend that it didn't happen, so as not to affect their previous friendship. Xiao Haiqing's expression was strange. Although Jing Yunzhao rarely felt curious, he couldn't help but pay more attention to her. "Is he a married man?" Jing Yunzhao hesitated for a while before asking. "Of course not," Xiao Haiqing hurriedly denied. "Even if I lack love, I can't mess around with someone who has a family." "Then why? If it's because he has a wife or girlfriend, I'll agree with you backing out. But since that's not the case, why can't you be together?" Jing Yunzhao wanted to get to the bottom of it. He really couldn't think of what kind of person Xiao Haiqing would fall in love with. Because of her current job, she had a lot of male friends. There were all kinds of directors and even A-list celebrities. Among them, there were some who were more outstanding. However, the two of them were now living together in the Jing family's old mansion. They often talked about everything, but he had never seen her mention a man's name with a face full of affection. It was because they knew each other that he found it strange when he heard her say this. That person. Xiao Haiqing rubbed her temples and thought for a while before saying, "He's too old." It's not an exaggeration to say that he's an elder. If I get together with him, it'll be too awkward. More importantly, her best friend was that person's niece. How could she accept this situation? When Jing Yunzhao heard this, he was stunned for a moment. An old man? She felt that Xiao Haiqing's taste couldn't possibly be that heavy, right? "About 30 years old, Xiao Haiqing replied. "Poof. Superstar, do you think a man in his 30s is an old man in your eyes?" Hua Tianxian laughed so hard that the makeup on her face trembled. She hurriedly took out a mirror to tidy herself up before continuing. "If the other party is over 40, then the two of you are definitely not suitable for each other. However, if it's someone in his 30s, then it's not unacceptable. Furthermore, I don't think you would fall for a man with a marriage history, let alone an ugly man or a womanizer. Therefore, this person should be a golden bachelor. If he's in his 30s and hasn't gotten married, then he should be a mature and steady person. If his character is reliable, then I think he would be perfect for you." With Xiao Haiqing's and Jing Yunzhao's tempers, how could a childish boy of the same age control them? In her opinion, if a man and a woman were less than 15 years apart in age, there wouldn't be much of a problem for them to be together. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Su Wencheng was 32 years old this year, and she was a few months older than Jing Yunzhao. She was currently 20 years old. If Su Wencheng wasn't Jing Yunzhao's uncle, she might have considered it. However, he was, so all she could do was avoid him. Chapter 1373. Jing Yunzhao took a sip of his coffee and glanced at Xiao Haiqing. After a while, he said, "Haiqing, the person you had feelings for before couldn't be second uncle, right?" She wasn't speaking without thinking, mainly because she had been feeling a little strange recently. In the past, second uncle used to stick to her every day and send her to school. However, ever since Xiao Haiqing moved into the old mansion, second uncle had never appeared. When she occasionally bumped into him, she would think that the two of them were quarreling. She always thought that the two of them were still angry about the matter of her becoming a goddaughter, so she didn't pay much attention to it. However, when she thought about it carefully, second uncle's gaze seemed to be a little passionate. Cough, cough. Xiao Haiqing choked and hurriedly tried to catch her breath. Her entire face was red. After a while, she stopped coughing and hurriedly said, Yunzhao, I won't rush to be your second aunt. How embarrassing would that be? You only said that you don't want to be my second aunt, but you didn't say that you don't have feelings for second uncle. So Haiqing, are you admitting it? Jing Yunzhao's expression was unreadable. His face was stern and serious as he continued, Haiqing, we've been friends for many years. It's not an exaggeration to say that we're family. Don't tell me that you still want to hide it from me? Hui Tianxian smiled at the side and watched the show happily. Jing Yunzhao was playing the emotional card. Within 10 seconds, Xiao Haiqing would completely surrender, spilling everything out without leaving out a single word. Sure enough, it was just as Hui Tianxian expected. Seeing Jing Yunzhao's serious expression, Xiao Haiqing explained after a while, that's right. I did have feelings for him before, but I haven't contacted him for a long time. When did the two of you start having feelings for each other? Jing Yunzhao sounded like he was interrogating her. He was extremely serious. After your 18th birthday. To be exact, it was when you wanted me to become your godfather. At that time, second Uncle Su and I stayed by the mountain road for a few hours. However, his behavior was a little strange at that time and he did not say anything. Later, during a dinner party, I was forced to drink alcohol by the film's investors. I could drink a lot, so I did not mind. However, second Uncle Su saw it, and he was very angry. He said that I did not respect myself and wanted to teach me a lesson. But somehow we kissed. Only that one time. Xiao Haiqing hurriedly explained. Maybe it was because we both drank a little at the time, so we were a little impulsive. After that, I made my stance clear to him. Yunzhao, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Xiao Haiqing's face was filled with sincerity. Jing Yunzhao thought for a moment and suddenly understood. It was no wonder that her second uncle had suddenly intervened in a movie investment and even taught the investor's boss a lesson. At that time, she had thought that her second uncle's anger was strange. Who would have thought that it was because of Haiqing? When Jing Yunzhao was thinking about something, her eyes were slightly narrowed. She looked very much like Li Xiaoren. In your eyes, am I so petty? Jing Yunzhao seemed to be a little angry. She said, we have been friends for so long. Why would I stop you because of this? Although second uncle is my elder, there is not much difference between us. My family has always wanted him to find someone he likes. Why would I think that a stranger is better than you? Although there is a problem in terms of seniority, you and I are relatives, but we are not biological sisters. Anyway, we will become a family. What's wrong with being one generation older? Why would I care about such external things? Jing Yunzhao said again. If she had known earlier, she would have only given her blessings and not stopped her. Although the way they addressed each other was a little weird, they were friends. They did not have to be so calculative. Everything could be done according to the way they used to be. There was no need to change anything. Chapter 1374. Jing Yunzhao could understand Xiao Haiqing's thoughts. After all, they were used to getting along with each other as equals. If she suddenly changed her mind, outsiders might gossip about her. But thinking about it carefully, she was now living in the old mansion of the Jing family and was busy with so many things every day. She only went to the Su family a few times a month. She didn't have the time to care about other people's opinions. She just wanted to live a comfortable life. Look at your serious face. Our superstar Xiao is going to be anxious later. Hui Tianxian added some sugar to her coffee. She could see clearly. Bystanders saw more clearly. After being together for so long, she had long understood the temperament of these two people. In any case, my opinion is to remain neutral. If you think that second uncle isn't bad, then just make do with it. If he's not up to standard, then it's fine to have someone else. In short, don't miss out on your lifelong happiness because of me. Jing Yunzhao continued. Xiao Haiqing clenched the cup. In fact, she had already expected that Jing Yunzhao would not object. She just couldn't get over it in her heart. Besides, she was really busy with her career and didn't want to think about other things for the time being. So, she nipped the bud in time. But she had to admit that with Jing Yunjiao's words, the pressure in her heart lessened. She didn't have the strong sense of guilt from before. Speaking of which, I heard from eldest uncle that my second uncle, who has lived for more than 30 years, was only moved once when he was in university. From then on, he became extremely picky. This proves that your charm is still not bad. Jing Yunjiao saw that she knew she was in the wrong and was willing to change. Only then did she reveal a smile and spoke. Previously, when she saw that her second uncle had no intention of getting married despite being in his early 30s, she was a little anxious. She even chatted with her first uncle once. She heard from her first uncle that although her second uncle was picky when he was young, he wasn't a cold-hearted person. He once got along very well with a campus belle, and they seemed to have become a couple. However, when they were in school, her second uncle was very low-key. Her first uncle's official position wasn't like now, so although he was rich, outsiders didn't know about it. Not long after, that girl dumped him and went with an older man, which disgusted her second uncle for a long time. Perhaps it was because he was young at that time. Even if his heart was moved, it wasn't to the point where it had to be the emperor. Therefore, although second uncle was sad at that time, it was more because his dignity had been trampled on. Therefore, later on, he was extremely disgusted by those who were extremely pure, cute, and harmless-looking women. Xiao Haiqing, on the other hand, did not belong to that category. Instead, she belonged to the other extreme. Second uncle Su only had one girlfriend before? Xiao Haiqing asked in disbelief. Su Wencheng was not young, and he was very outstanding in all aspects. However, he had only been close to one woman. This news was a little too shocking for her. That's right. Don't look at my second uncle's picky appearance. In reality, he doesn't have much experience. I heard that the only girlfriend he dated in the beginning only lasted for a few months. At that time, his upbringing was strict. I reckon they were only at the level of holding hands. They couldn't do anything intimate. Jing Yunjiao acted as if she was presenting a treasure, her gaze making Xiao Haiqing speechless. Don't look at me like that. I feel that you are thinking of something dirty. Xiao Haiqing mumbled. Jing Yunjiao was happy for a moment. She was a godly assistant. She had told Xiao Haiqing in advance how pure her second uncle was so that she wouldn't think that her second uncle was experienced. She and Xiao Haiqing were the same type of people. They were extremely misophobic when it came to relationships. They didn't want their men to be surrounded by all kinds of women. They were not afraid of having a complicated past. Chapter 1375. Jing Yunjiao didn't care if Xiao Haiqing wanted to hear it or not. She told her all the basic information about her second uncle so that she would know what to do. As the saying goes, keep the goodies within the family. Her uncle was considered the best among men. It wouldn't be a bad idea to leave him for Haiqing. The three of them chatted for a while and ate until they were full. Then, they left and drove to the mall to shop. There was a dazzling array of goods in this shopping mall, but they were all high-end lines, luxurious and expensive. The women who came here were all rich madams and daughters. Of course, not everything was extraordinarily expensive, but for ordinary people, they could afford to buy one or two items, but if they wanted to make a big purchase, they basically did not have the financial strength. Jing Yunjiao wasn't interested in shopping, but she was a girl after all. She liked pretty things. She even liked to watch Xiao Haiqing and Hua Tianxian pick and choose because they were both good-looking. Ladies, this perfume is a new product from our store. The smell isn't very strong, but the fragrance lasts for a long time. The fragrance is full of vitality and makes people feel relaxed. The one beside it is more suitable for the madams over there. It's more elegant and graceful. The salesperson kept talking. Jing Yunjiao followed the direction of the salesperson's gaze. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. But thinking about it, the restaurant just now was near the mall. What else could a few rich madams do other than shop? Jing Yunzhao gently sniffed the test paper and said, "It's mainly jasmine, sandalwood, and patchouli. It smells good." The salesperson glanced at Jing Yunzhao and was a little surprised. "But this perfume doesn't suit me. It's better for Haiqing." Tianxian smiled and pointed at another perfume. "Wrap this up for me." Jing Yunzhao also smiled. Xiao Haiqing wasn't suited to use a perfume that was too ostentatious, so this lighter perfume was more suitable for her. On the other hand, Tianxian was used to being ostentatious. She had always been domineering, so it was almost impossible for her to keep a low profile. Jing Yunzhao also knew how to make her own perfumes and fragrances, but most of them were medicinal fragrances. She could use them herself, but they weren't suitable for Xiao Haiqing to use when she attended big events. Besides, if she had to make everything herself, then she really wouldn't be able to handle it. The two of them bought a bottle each. When they were paying the bill, they bumped into Wang Rushan and the others. Tianxian and Xiao Haiqing didn't know Wang Rushan at all, so they didn't have any reaction. Jing Yunzhao, on the other hand, didn't do anything wrong, so he didn't want to hide at all, so they inevitably met. "Hello, Auntie Li," the other party was an elder. Jing Yunzhao didn't want to be a topic of ridicule, so he greeted her politely. Wang Rushan was shocked by Xiao Haiqing's appearance. Her expression didn't look too good, but she didn't want to make a scene outside, so she nodded stiffly. Yi Chu, who was next to her, quickly pulled Wang Rushan back and said, "Miss Jing, why are you following Auntie Li? I know you want her to accept you, but some things can't be forced. No matter how much you try to please her, it won't work." Yi Chu looked like he was protecting her and couldn't find any fault. When the people around them heard this, they realized that the girl in front of them looked a little familiar. "Miss Jing? Are you Jing Yunzhao?" one of the women asked. "That's right." Jing Yunzhao nodded. Their expressions became even more strange. Seeing that she was about to pay the bill, they laughed and said, "Mrs. Li is so lucky. I heard that Miss Jing's family fortune is countless." Chapter 1376. Xiao Haiqing was an artist under Jing Yunzhao's company. It was reasonable for Jing Yunzhao to buy things for her. Moreover, Xiao Haiqing usually lived frugally. Every time she earned money, she would pay off her previous debts as soon as possible. Therefore, Jing Yunzhao had to worry about these things and didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. But now, listening to the lady's words, she felt a little uncomfortable. These two ladies are also a bit familiar. "You seem to be the daughter of the Hor family, right? And you little Xiao? That big star? You've been quite popular recently. My daughter is so obsessed with you." Another woman looked at the two people next to Jing Yunzhao and said, "Hello, aunties." Xiao Haiqing and Tianxian greeted politely. "What a polite child." One of them smiled, then looked at Wang Rushan and said, "We seem to be lucky today. With Miss Jing here, maybe we don't need to spend money. Isn't that right, Mrs. Li?" Even if they weren't clear on how rich Jing Yunzhao was, they had still heard some rumors. The companies under her, every single one of them, had a decent annual income. Don't talk about tens of billions. If they were to add it all up, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was 100 billion. What's more, she was such a young girl. To be honest, if she wasn't the only child of the Jing family, the number of people who wanted to marry this treasure bowl home was countless. Moreover, if the woman was strong and the man was weak, although it was good for the family, it would cause discord for the family. Wang Rushan smiled dryly. She didn't bring much money out today, and she didn't like any perfume, so she didn't have time to buy it. It didn't seem good to let Jing Yunzhao pay. It's just that her friends had already spoken up. If Jing Yunzhao were to reject them, then she would lose all her face. Therefore, at this time, she looked at Jing Yunzhao with a slightly threatening expression. How could Jing Yunzhao not see it? However, she was not a fool. If this elder was reasonable, she would feel comfortable even if she spent the money. However, Wang Rushan had just denied her existence in front of others a moment ago. If she went up again, wouldn't she be slapping her own face? She did not have the habit of looking for abuse or embarrassing herself. "Aunties, you must be joking. I'm just a junior. How can I show off my wealth in front of the elders? Jing Yunzhao said with a smile, but he directly rejected the proposal of payment. She had real money, so she couldn't just throw it around like a paper airplane. The few of them were stunned. They didn't think that Jing Yunzhao would reject them so bluntly. She then glanced at Madame Li and said, "When we were chatting just now, we even mentioned Miss Jing. Madame Li praised you for being a capable person. I think so too, but it's really a pity. If it wasn't for that little girl Yi Chu, you and Madame Li might have become a family." Hearing this, Wang Rishan's face turned pale. She said those words in a moment of anger. After all, she had already brought Yi Chu out. She could not say that her daughter-in-law was someone else. If that was the case, other people would think too much. However, she did not expect to meet Jing Yunzhao. Yi Chu? Jing Yunzhao was slightly surprised. Looking down from above, she sized her up with a smile that wasn't a smile and said, "Why is it that with Miss Yi here, Mrs. Li and I aren't family anymore?" Yi Chu is Mrs. Li's daughter-in-law. One of them couldn't help but say, as if they were mocking Jing Yunzhao for not knowing. Girls, after all. If they were too eye-catching, it would cause others to feel uncomfortable. In front of Jing Yunzhao, even elders like them would feel pressured. Indeed, they weren't as comfortable as Yi Chu, a pretty daughter from a humble family. Chapter 1377. These few madams also had the attitude of wanting to watch a good show. After all, Old Man Li's words had shocked quite a number of people. Moreover, a few years ago, there were many people who wanted to marry into the Li family, but that mysterious Li Xiaoyun had never given anyone any face. Now that there were two girls who were related to Li Xiaoyun, they naturally didn't mind blowing things up and purposely provoked Jing Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao's reputation had been too well known in recent years, and these ladies had heard a lot about her. Their husbands often used Jing Yunzhao's name to educate their children. It would be strange if they had a good impression of her. At this time, the ladies were smiling, as if they wanted to see her embarrassed. However, Jing Yunzhao suddenly smiled. "I just met Grandpa Li yesterday and got engaged. Technically, I'm considered half a member of the Li family. Auntie Li, I'm really sorry. Shaoran and I are usually busy with work, so we don't pay much attention to you. We didn't know you had a son outside. But we're both reasonable people. Let's have a meal together some other day. After all, you're Xiaoyun's mother. Even if Xiaoyun's surname isn't Li, Xiaoyun, and I will still accept it." Jing Yunzhao smiled faintly, but it gave people a cold feeling. A chill ran from the soles of their feet. Hearing this, Wang Rishan's face turned livid. What did this mean? Did she say that she had an affair and had given birth to a bastard child outside? Jing Yunzhao, what nonsense are you talking about? Is this something a junior should say to an elder? Wang Rishan was really angry. Her elegant face finally cracked, and she said angrily, "I don't know what I said wrong." Jing Yunzhao didn't show any weakness. If people respected her, she would respect them tenfold. Originally, because Wang Rishan was Li Xiaoyun's biological mother, even if she had no feelings for her, she was polite and never took the initiative to find trouble. However, Wang Rishan thought that she was easy to bully. Find Miss Yi to disgust her? Li Xiaoyun wouldn't be so tasteless to fall for a woman like Yi Chu. Wang Rishan's face turned red, and the people next to her didn't mind making things worse. They asked curiously, "Mrs. Li, what does Miss Jing mean? They just got engaged yesterday? Isn't your wife Miss Yi Chu? Look at this young lady. She is a good match for your Xiaoyun." "Madam, please be careful with your words. I don't mind, but if Xiaoyun finds out that you're mocking him with such a woman, he will probably be so disgusted that he won't be able to eat for months," said Jing Yunzhao with a sneer. The man's expression changed, and he glanced at Jing Yunzhao. He was somewhat afraid of this girl. If the other party was just an ordinary rich man's daughter, it wouldn't be a big deal to offend her. However, this Jing Yunzhao was on the same level as her husband and even her father-in-law. She was young, and if she had a weak personality, they wouldn't mind suppressing her. However, with her strange temper, she might hold a grudge. It wasn't worth it to offend the head of a rich family for a moment of anger. Miss Jing is right. However, it's strange. It's all because Missy claimed to be the Li family's daughter-in-law. That's why we misunderstood. The madams weren't stupid enough to push the blame onto Wang Rushan. Instead, they said to Yi Chu, "We didn't have the time to ask. May I know who Miss Ye's parents are? I don't think they taught you to go around pretending to be someone's fiancé, right?" Chapter 1378. Wang Rushan was not good with words. Usually, when she hung out with these rich madams, she could only serve as a foil. Although the Li family's reputation was intimidating, many people knew in their hearts that Li Junwei did not care about his children at all. Li Shaoran was also not a child who listened to his mother. Coupled with her ordinary background, she could not even hold her head high in front of these people. At this moment, the grievances in her heart were stacked layer by layer. She was really on the verge of breaking down. Originally, she let Yi Chu hold her hand, but now, she let go of Yi Chu's hand. Her face was ashen, and she was already prepared to go out less in the future. Yi Chu's face also stiffened. He looked at Jing Yunzhao and said, "Miss Jing, you've misunderstood. Previously, Auntie Li invited you out to go shopping, but you refused, so I accompanied her. It's inevitable that people will overthink if we walk together. Do you want us to explain ourselves one by one? So we just let nature take its course. However, we also did not expect to meet you here. After all, yesterday you said that you were not free today. So, you just did not have time to accompany Auntie Li." When Jing Yunzhao heard this, she could not help but laugh. Yi Chu's mouth really liked to talk nonsense. He actually came up with a lie so casually. His shamelessness was invincible. "Miss Ye's words are just like you. You're just making things up. It's ridiculous." Jing Yunzhao glanced at her, then at Wang Rushan and continued, "Auntie Li, yesterday we did not spend much time together. Everything was said in front of my father, Grandpa Li, and the others. It seems that I did not see you invite me, did you?" Wang Rushan's character was like a fence-sitter. Not only did she have no standpoint, but she also did not have her own opinions. If it was not for Li Rui, her second aunt, Wang Rushan might not like her, but she would not make it too obvious. At most, she would have some feelings in private. If she put in more effort, it would be a happy and harmonious relationship. The only thing to blame was the fact that there were so many people around Wang Rushan. It was fine if Li Ying knew her place, but Li Rui was one of them, and now there was Yi Chu. It was not just the two of them. Even the occasional words from the wives of wealthy families could cause Wang Rushan's emotions to fluctuate. As her future mother-in-law, she did not belong to this circle at all. She was too sensitive and took other people's words to heart. It was just a small matter now, and it was not a big deal. However, if this continued, she might be instigated to do something bad. With Jing Yunzhao's pressure, Wang Ruchun's eyes immediately panicked, and she subconsciously replied, "No." As soon as she spoke, she sensed that Yi Chu's expression did not look too good. But on second thought, she was telling the truth. Jing Yunzhao smiled satisfactorily. "Miss Yi, I don't know what you want to do by getting close to Auntie Li, but Auntie Li isn't an idiot who will let you manipulate her. You should know when to stop, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Yi Chu secretly clenched his fists. She detested Jing Yunzhao's current behavior. What was so great about her? She stood in front of her with her head held high and looked down on everyone. All these years, Jing Yunzhao was getting more and more popular day by day. She was living a life that everyone envied. Her studies, career, and love were all getting better and better. But what about her? She could only be a lowly escort in the dark. Obviously, Jing Yunzhao was just a wild brat that was picked up from the streets. This kind of person had no right to step on her under her feet. "Miss Jing, you don't have to provoke me. Didn't you show up today because you don't like me being close to Aunt Li? Isn't it enough that you have young Master Li? Do you want to control Aunt Li?" Chapter 1379. Yi Chu took a deep breath and fought back like a tigress baring her fangs and brandishing her claws. At this moment, Wang Ro-chun already didn't know what to say. Her heart naturally wanted to side with Yi Chu. After all, this girl was usually filial and kind. Today, she even provided her with 500,000 yuan to buy things. However, Jing Yunzhao was her future daughter-in-law. This point was undeniable, and she was also liked by the old man. If Jing Yunzhao were to complain to the old man, she would have to bear the consequences. Although she wasn't smart, she knew that in the Li family, the old man and her son meant what they said. If the old man knew that she treated Jing Yunzhao like this, he might ask her husband to divorce her. Her husband had always been obedient. Even if he didn't want to, he wouldn't resist. Her son was the same. He never meddled in her affairs. Yi Chu was also a little angry. According to the information provided by Jeannie Ran, she knew that Wang Rishan was the easiest way to break through the Li family. She was a cowardly and simple-minded person who was easily controlled. The truth was just as the information said. She did not use much effort to make Wang Rishan dote on her as if she was her own daughter. However, the problem was that she was too useless. Jing Yunzhao scared her with a few words, and she didn't dare to say anything. She was like a coward. With this kind of temper, she deserved to be suppressed by Jing Yunzhao. If she really had such a mother-in-law, she really had to find a way to make her die first. Otherwise, she would be angered to death by this kind of person in the future. Jing Yunzhao looked at Yi Chu with disdain. At the same time, there was a strange feeling that she couldn't explain or understand. A few days ago, when she met young Master Lei in the restaurant with Li Xiaoyan, she began to feel uncomfortable. She also checked her own pulse. All her physical signs were normal and there was absolutely no hidden disease. Therefore, the uncomfortable feeling should be a premonition. After that, the only variable she encountered was this Yi Chu. Therefore, she was also wary of this Yi Chu. However, after all, they just met yesterday, and she didn't want to check it out. Now, it seemed that it was necessary. Miss Yi, why don't you say that so many people in this shopping mall are here to follow you and Aunt Li? Jing Yunzhao said casually and began to pay the bill to leave. However, just as the money was paid, the lady beside her said, "Since we've met, Miss Jing, why don't we go shopping together? And Miss Hua as well. Speaking of which, I've met your mother a few times, and we're quite close." "That's right. The more the merrier. My daughter used to say that she wanted to go to the set to see Miss Xiao every day. Now that we've met today, if I don't spend more time with you, my daughter will definitely make trouble later," another person said. Wang Ro-chun was extremely uncomfortable, her heart full of unwillingness. Jing Yunzhao glanced at Huitian Xian and Xiao Haiqing. Seeing that they didn't mind, he nodded and said, "Okay, it's my honor to go shopping with such beautiful aunts." She was Li Xiaoyun's official girlfriend. Naturally, she couldn't die in public. The more Yi Chu felt that she was an eyesore, the more she wanted to walk around. Anyway, there wasn't much difference between shopping with 3 people and shopping with 7 or 8 people. Seeing that Jing Yunzhao agreed, Wang Rishan was so angry that her steps were a little unstable. She really wanted to pretend to be sick and leave first, but she also knew that if she left now, she would be running away in embarrassment. She braced herself and forced a smile at the side. After the other women paid, they went to other shops. They bought quite a lot of things, but Wang Rishan and Yi Chu didn't make any moves. Chapter 1380. Yi Chu was not short of money, and she even had a lot of things that she liked. However, she had already taken out her inheritance. She could not spend money in front of Wang Rishan. Otherwise, the 500,000 yuan would not be much. However, she did not expect that Jing Yunzhao would also appear. Now that she saw Jing Yunzhao showing off his wealth in front of her, she did not feel good. Wang Rishan was the same. She only had a little money, so of course, she had to spend it sparingly. However, Jing Yunzhao knew that Li Xiaoyan had frozen the card in Wang Rishan's hand. At the same time, Li Xiaoyan also said that his mother did not know much about the family's life. She had always spent money without counting, and it was almost impossible for her to have savings. Now that he saw her so scrupulous, Jing Yunjiao was more and more certain of Li Xiaoyun's statement. Jing Yunjiao also felt that Wang Rishan, the future mother-in-law, deserved it. Almost all the money she used to have was earned by Li Xiaoyun. Although it was natural for a son to earn money for his mother, she had never felt a trace of heartache as a mother. Li Xiaoyun had become a major general at such a young age. She should have known in her heart that Li Xiaoyun had experienced a lot of danger, but she had never cared about him or asked about him. Other than money, there was only money. She even wanted Li Xiaoyun's money and wanted to scheme against grandfather Li. Old Master Li's family property was also exchanged with his life. She had never paid anything. Just because she became the daughter-in-law of the Li family, she wanted to ask for it. She should not. Li Xiaoyun had a lot of new and old wounds on his body, and she often treated the old man, so she also had a lot of old wounds on her body. If this couple had cared about her, the old man and Li Xiaoyun wouldn't have been so cruel. Mrs. Li, you didn't buy a single thing. Did you not bring any money with you today? But it doesn't matter. If you like something, just say it. We are all here. Besides, your daughter-in-law is here. How can we be reluctant to buy you some small gifts? One of the ladies joked. However, she did not expect that her casual words would become the truth. Wang Rishan felt sad and nodded with a smile. It's just that I don't like anything. You weren't like this when I was shopping with you in the past. It seems that your taste has changed after you have a daughter-in-law, someone said. In the past, Wang Rishan was afraid of embarrassing herself. Every time she bought something, she would buy more expensive and more things than others. Now, even if others didn't want to be curious, they couldn't do it. It's just that I bought too many things in the past. I can't even use them all. That's why I want to restrain myself, Wang Rishan said awkwardly. What's there to be afraid of? Women like us can't go out to drink and travel like those men. What else can we do besides shopping? If you don't buy anything like you did just now, we won't be in the mood to shop. Yes, I'm going to buy a new bag. Wang Rishan smiled. She had always been prideful, so how could she embarrass herself like this? He absolutely could not return empty-handed. Jing Yunjiao remained silent at the side, while Xiao Haiqing secretly tugged on her clothes from behind. She lowered her voice and asked softly, Your future mother-in-law seems to be in need of money. Aren't you going to sponsor her a little? Maybe you can get a good impression of her. Even if I give her all my property, her change won't last long. Unless I'm a fool, I won't rush forward like this. Jing Yunjiao smiled and said directly. Xiao Haiqing curled her lips and thought about it. Just like her biological father, giving him money would only boost his prestige and make him take it for granted the next time. Chapter 1381. Thinking of her own father, Xiao Daoan, Xiao Haiqing's eyes flashed with coldness. Her father had come to the capital a long time ago, but he wasn't doing well. He wanted to make a comeback, but after investing all his money, he lost everything. Now, she would give him $3,000 a month, which was almost enough for his daily expenses. Of course, at first, her father spent the $3,000 very quickly and asked for money again. However, she cut off all contact with him and starved him for 3 whole months. During those 3 months, she didn't provide a single cent. Her father didn't have money to eat. At first, he tried his best to keep up appearances, but he was afraid of death. In the end, he threw away all his dignity and ate leftovers in some restaurants. Although it was a little cruel, 3 months had changed his bad temper. Since then, she gave him money on time to support his old age. Her father now understood that if he spent all his money, he could just live until the beginning of the month. However, he couldn't ask for more money, or else he would have to suffer for the next 2 months. It wasn't that her father didn't think of going to the media, but everyone knew that Xiao Haiqing's father was a person who sold his daughter for glory. She didn't abandon her responsibility to support him, and she didn't treat her elders badly. No one could say anything bad about her. In a sense, Wang Rishan was the same as her father. She couldn't be spoiled or flattered, or else she would never be satisfied. She was like a bottomless pit. On the contrary, Direct suppression was more effective because this kind of person didn't have much of a bottom line and could only rely on others to restrain them. Soon, the group arrived at a shop selling branded bags. The products inside were dazzling. This handbag was something Jing Yunjiao always had when she went out. It could be used as a smokescreen to take things out of her space. However, she had never bought such an expensive bag. To her, a cheap bag was more low-key. "Hi Qing, aren't you going to attend a banquet in a few days? This handbag is just right. The style is the latest, and the style is young. It will definitely cause a lot of discussion." Hua Tianxian pointed at a small and exquisite bag. Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing glanced at the price and couldn't help but twitch their mouths. 780,000. The surface of the bag was inlaid with diamonds, pink sapphires, and some tourmalines. Under the dazzling gemstones, the bag was wrapped in white gold. It looked more like an exquisite work of art. She always felt that it was more suitable to be placed at home. "I think that if I go out with such a big piece of jewelry, I will be on the headlines. At that time, I will be scolded by the fans for being extravagant." Xiao Haiqing smiled bitterly. It was beautiful, but it wasn't practical. Perfume and handbags were different. After all, the former needed to be comfortable to smell and would give people a different impression when interacting with them. Therefore, she would choose carefully. However, this handbag was slightly different. There were so many different styles, and the old ones might not be too bad. After all, it was for her own use. If she kept a low profile, it would not make people feel uncomfortable. Flaunting one's wealth would incur hatred. "This model is new, right? Mrs. Li, I think it suits you well." As soon as Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, Jing Yunjiao's attention was attracted by the voice next to him. He looked at it. It was a shiny black bag. The salesperson was introducing it to them. It was made of crocodile skin and inlaid with white diamonds. Jing Yunjiao didn't have any interest in daily necessities made of animal skin. He was even slightly disgusted by it. The only thing he cared about was Wang Rishen's strange expression. Her face was stiff, and she smiled awkwardly. Jing Yunjiao glanced at the price. 730,000. It was indeed expensive. However, could it be that Wang Rishen couldn't even afford it? One had to know that Li Xiaoran used to give her several times more money every month. Chapter 1382. Wang Rishen had taken a fancy to this new bag at first glance. She had bought countless luxury goods over the years. At first, she didn't understand why something made of a few pieces of skin was so expensive. However, after seeing so many envious gazes, she slowly found pleasure in these bags. Moreover, after buying so many, she naturally heard many salespeople introduce them. Therefore, she knew that a good bag could set off a person's temperament. Although the current one was black, it didn't look old-fashioned. Not only that, the style was very exquisite and elegant. There were very few black bags that could match her. If it weren't for the money problem, she would definitely buy it first. "I don't like black very much." Wang Rishen held back her gaze and said hesitantly, "I remember you said you wanted a black bag when you went shopping last time." When the person next to her heard this, he was a little unhappy and said, "Since you don't like it, forget it." Everyone went shopping together to be happy. None of them were short of money. If they just looked and didn't buy, why bother coming out? Feeling the displeasure of the ladies next to her, Wang Rishen was also anxious, but it was a fact that she didn't have money. If she showed off now, she would be exposed when she paid later, so she could only endure it no matter how shameful it was. Although Jing Yunjiao was well aware, she didn't show any emotions. She just watched and didn't speak. In order to prove herself, Wang Rishen moved her gaze away from the bag that cost more than 700,000 yuan and put it on an ordinary bag. The price wasn't low, more than 300,000 yuan. It was within the range that she could afford. As for the bags that cost a few thousand yuan, she naturally didn't even look at them. Jing Yunjiao didn't care about these gazes. The bag she used at the beginning was about a few hundred yuan. Later, Pak Yuan, Xiang Jin, and the others would think of her every time they went shopping. They knew that she usually carried bags, so they collected a lot for her. Most of them weren't extremely expensive, but the things that others chose weren't as good as what she liked. Therefore, after a while, she also picked 2 bags. The prices were about a few thousand yuan, which were not very eye-catching in this store. Seeing the 2 designs that Jing Yunzhao had chosen, the few madams stared at each other with their eyes wide open, as if they didn't understand. When it came to money, they were definitely not as rich as Jing Yunzhao, but it was rare to see such a stingy company CEO. For example, the bag in Jing Yunzhao's hand was only affordable to employees who cared about their reputation and didn't have much money. It was indeed not suitable for her current status. Miss Jing is only interested in these 2 designs? Someone asked uncertainly. Jing Yunzhao nodded and spoke the truth. The others are too expensive. They're not suitable. Of course, there were other models that were not bad, but most of the price was based on the brand and not the quality of the product. Miss Jing sure is thrifty. The other party was stunned for a moment. After thinking for a while, he praised her. He had long heard that although Jing Yunzhao was born into a rich family, she had lived outside since she was young. Her life was difficult, so it was normal for her to be thrifty and stingy. However, when it came to her background, other people only thought about it in their hearts, but Yi Chu directly asked, "I heard that Miss Jing suffered a lot in her adoptive parents' house when she was young. She was like a servant in ancient times. Her life was comparable to that of a slave. In order to get rid of obstacles, she didn't even care about kindness. Is that true?" These words were all said by people on the internet. Yi Chu didn't think that it was wrong, but he still felt uncomfortable because of Jing Yunzhao's incident. Chapter 1383. From her point of view, her mother had practically given Jing Yunzhao a second life by bringing her home. Since the family had raised a child for no reason, they naturally had to make the child pay a price. She was originally a bastard child, so what was wrong with letting her work? Could it be that their family had to be polite to a bastard child that was picked up? Based on what? Jing Yunzhao was clearly the ungrateful person, but in the end, the Qiao family's reputation was ruined because of her. Even now, she didn't dare to tell others that she was Qiao Hongye, afraid that others would find out that she was the bad person who oppressed Jing Yunzhao back then. Yi Chu's targeting was already very obvious. She said the words that the other rich madams didn't dare to say. "Missy is very good at spreading rumors, but from what you said, it seems like you're speaking up for the Qiao family? Back then, my foster father was quite lecherous. You're thinking for them like this. Could it be that you have some unspeakable secret with my foster father? Otherwise, why would you gossip about me the moment we met yesterday?" Jing Yunzhao deliberately said. The reason why he said this was mainly because when Yi Chu spoke just now, there seemed to be a hint of hatred emerging. It was a little strange. At this time, Yi Chu's eyes were even more annoyed. "Miss Jing's thoughts are really dirty. I really don't know how you got your family's wealth. I heard that your biological mother was an uneducated woman who eloped with another man. It seems that it has some influence on you. It's just a pity that such an outstanding man like young Masterly was actually bewitched by a woman like you."
Pa.
Yi Chu's voice had just fallen when Jing Yunzhao raised his hand and slapped her. "Miss Yi, aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning for insulting your ancestors?" Jing Yunzhao coldly said, then looked at her face again and said, "Miss Ye's face. Did you do plastic surgery? The bones seem a little different to the touch." Jing Yunzhao wasn't lying. When he was making a move, he touched some bones on her face. If the bones had been cut, it was impossible for there to be no traces, so there would be some scabs left. He hadn't paid attention to it before, but now that he looked at it again, although her face was beautiful, he felt that there was something strange about it. Her eyes seemed to be deliberately elongated, and her nose was also a little smaller than the average person's. If he only looked at one part, it was perfect, but when combined together, it was a little stiff. Also, when she touched her face just now, she seemed to feel something different from natural muscles. She was afraid that she had stuffed something on her face, but it was probably done by a better doctor, so it wasn't too obvious. After discovering this point, Jing Yunzhao started to feel a little happy. She ran in front of her with a fake face and even tried to seduce her man. How interesting. Before Yi Chu could react to the pain and anger, his expression changed because of Jing Yunzhao's words. She could actually tell that she had undergone plastic surgery. What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Chu said angrily. Miss Yi, I'm a doctor, and I've always been very respectful of my identity, so I definitely won't wrongly accuse you in this aspect. Jing Yunzhao smiled faintly and continued. I remember you said yesterday that you came from an ordinary family, right? Can an ordinary girl spend a lot of money on plastic surgery? Not to mention the bones, the eyes, nose, and even the mouth are probably not completely original. It must have cost a lot of money, right? You said that your parents died in an accident, but in my opinion, it's more likely that they were angered to death by you. The degree and quality of this kind of plastic surgery would cost at least a few 100,000 yuan. Yi Chu was so young and dared to be so extravagant. Ordinary parents might not be able to accept it. Chapter 1384. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, Yi Chu looked completely different. She was so angry that she opened and closed her mouth. In Jing Yunzhao's eyes, her face seemed to have become a little stiffer. The others also looked at Yi Chu curiously, and they also looked a little disgusted. When they were young, there were no so-called plastic surgery beauties. They were all born beautiful. Now, they relied on maintenance instead of going to those messy hospitals for plastic surgery. Now, they were also a little disgusted with this kind of woman who had undergone plastic surgery. After all, if they married her without knowing it, it might affect the genes of the next generation. Jing Yunzhao was a famous doctor. Everyone knew this in their hearts. In terms of medical skills, no one doubted her. After all, Qi Yuguo was an example, and so was the patient in Red-Crowned Crane Hall. Her reputation had long been known by everyone. There was no need to doubt her. Previously, it was easy to forget this matter because of her age. However, at this moment, they believed what she said without a doubt. Miss He looks quite like a foreign star. After a lady looked carefully, she smiled and said, My daughter especially likes to watch those messy TV series. She also follows some foreign stars. Her house is full of photos of some stars. I've seen some of them, so I have some impression. When she said this, it was even more convincing. The madams did not restrain their arched eyebrows as they looked at each other a few times. They smiled silently and had a tacit understanding. They were not blind. How could they not see that Wang Rishan did not like Jing Yunzhao? She wanted Yi Chu to be her daughter-in-law. Look at how she liked Yi Chu just now. It was as if she could not wait to take Yi Chu and let her marry her son. Looking at Wang Rishan's expression at this time, perhaps even she did not know that Yi Chu had undergone plastic surgery. How could a woman who changed her appearance know the background? In a bad way, if Yi Chu was ugly in the past, it would not be a big deal. If she was very beautiful but had an extremely bad private life, and now she changed her face to seduce men, few people would be able to find out. After all, if she wanted to hide it, her previous photos could not be found at all. If she was extremely smart, she might even change her name. I say, Mrs. Li, you are too naive. How can you bring all kinds of girls with you? Earlier in the restaurant, I heard that she was your savior, right? In my opinion, there are many ways to repay a debt of gratitude. It would be irresponsible of me to introduce her to my own son, isn't it? A few days ago, a friend of mine finally had a grandson, but this grandson is so ugly and shifty-eyed. This family is clearly good-looking, and the daughter-in-law is also a super beauty. No matter how I think about it, I can't figure it out. In the end, I found out that the daughter-in-law was a result of plastic surgery. Before the surgery, she was ugly and fat. In fact, it's not a big deal that she's not good-looking. The problem is that she has a bad heart. After the plastic surgery, she thought that no one could recognize her and even abandoned her biological parents, insisting that she came back from abroad. Mrs. Li, I think you'd better be careful. People's hearts are unpredictable. A few madams were talking one after another, making Wang Rushen want to find a hole to crawl into. He could not help but look at Yi Chu's face. The reason why she thought Yi Chu was good was because she was kind. On the other hand, she thought that her son might fall in love with her. However, this did not mean that she would agree to find a woman who had changed her appearance to be her daughter-in-law. Chapter 1385. Wang Rushen felt extremely uncomfortable. She felt that Yi Chu had embarrassed her. At the same time, she was glad that her son had good taste and did not have feelings for Yi Chu. Although she wasn't close to her son, she only had one child. She definitely wouldn't push her son into the fire pit. Her goal was only to find a pretty girl who was obedient to her teachers. She didn't want to harm her own son. I was just joking just now. I already have Yun Zhao as my daughter-in-law. Miss Yi is a good girl, but there's a big difference between her and our Li family. I only wanted to help and didn't dare to mess around. Otherwise, my father-in-law wouldn't let me off. Wang Ruochun's expression changed extremely quickly. When she said that, she did not forget to take Jing Yunzhao's hand. She knew in her heart that Jing Yunzhao and the Li family would be inseparable in the future. Even if they did not get along, Jing Yunzhao would give her face when she lowered her head. Wang Rushen's eyes were no longer threatening, but begging. After all, this person was Li Xiaoyun's mother. Jing Yunzhao did not want to be too harsh. At this time, he pulled his hand back and said, Auntie Li is a simple person. She will repay kindness. You can't say that she was deceived. Even though Wang Ruochun wasn't too satisfied with her explanation, it was still better than Jing Yunzhao ignoring her. She quickly smiled and nodded. My daughter-in-law is really good. When she went home with Xiaoran, she brought me a lot of gifts. I am very satisfied with all of them. Wang Rushen took advantage of the situation. Yi Chu was naturally left to the side. Her whole body was filled with anger. She wanted to strangle the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law together. Jing Yunzhao was fine. After all, they had always been on bad terms. However, Wang Rushen was still holding her money. She actually dared to help others. Did she really think that she was made of mud? Auntie Li, I think that black bag suits you better. With your status, it is not a big deal to buy a few more. Why don't you buy them all together? Yi Chu changed the topic and threatened. Others only felt that the change of topic was too strange, but Wang Rushen immediately understood her intention. She raised her bag to remind her that she had no money on her. Wang Rushen was so angry that she felt uncomfortable. However, she was afraid that Yi Chu would expose the fact that she had borrowed his inheritance in front of others. Therefore, she could only say, Little Chu has good taste, but I don't particularly like the black one. Forget it. Although he refused, this form of address was enough to express his position. After hearing this, Jing Yunzhao laughed mockingly. This future mother-in-law was indeed a fence-sitter. For the sake of that little bit of face, she really put in a lot of effort. At this moment, Yi Chu smiled slightly. Although she was still angry, these wives did not have much to do with her. She did not need to care too much about them. As long as she had Wang Rushen under her control, she would have plenty of ways to deal with them when she returned. In the end, Wang Rushen had only bought one bag, Guo Tianxian had bought 3 or 4 bags, and Xiao Haiqing had also chosen a simple and stylish one that did not cost much. After shopping in the mall, they finally parted ways. The other wives wanted to do their skincare, but Wang Rushen was too tired today. She thought of a way to leave with Yi Chu. However, as soon as they got into the car, Wang Rushen's expression instantly turned gloomy. Yi Chu, have you had plastic surgery? Auntie Li, do you believe Jing Yunzhao's words? Yi Chu looked wronged. She is a doctor. She was the one who cured Qiyugua.
How could she lie about this?
Wang Rushen looked displeased. Then, she said, even if you didn't have plastic surgery, now others will think that you did. No matter what, I can't accept such a daughter-in-law. So, as for my son, you should give up. Chapter 1386. Yi Chu had expected Wang Rishan to say that. She lowered her head and said slowly, Auntie Li, are you burning the bridge after crossing it? Burning the bridge after crossing it? You can't make it sound so bad. You can live in the Li family in the future, but I just don't want you to get close to my son. Wang Rishan felt uncomfortable. The reason why they lost face today was partly because of Jing Yunjiao and partly because of Yi Chu. Those people would definitely laugh at her behind her back, saying that she had no taste for a hypocritical woman who had plastic surgery to be her daughter-in-law. They would even push away Jing Yunjiao, that rich man. But you just borrowed money from me, didn't you? Auntie Li, the reason why you can buy such an expensive bag today is all because of me. Yi Chu moved closer to her ear so that the driver couldn't hear her. She continued, your son used to give you a lot of living expenses. Where did you spend them? Although you spend a lot of money on these luxury items, some of it should be related to the gardener, right? Wang Rishan trembled when she heard that. She stared at Yi Chu in fear. The gardener was her former friend. They were childhood sweethearts. Their families were close. If she hadn't met her husband, Li Peixian, she would have married him. She was the one who married her husband first and broke his heart. Later, through someone else's introduction, he married a wife and had a boy. However, the boy was a little silly, and his wife ran away when the boy was young. The man's parents were sick because of overwork. She felt guilty, so she hired him as a gardener and gave him a good salary every month. Sometimes, she would also pay for his parents' medical expenses. Nothing happened between them. After all, she wasn't brave and didn't think in that direction. However, if others knew about it, they wouldn't be so naive. In her heart, her husband was her life support. That man occupied another important position. He was her confidant. However, she didn't know how Yi Chu found out about it. If she told her husband, or even anyone else, she would be done for. Although Li Peixian looked like a very weak man, he was also somewhat male-chauvinistic and suspicious. Once he knew about this, there was no other possibility except for divorce. All these years, in addition to owning those luxuries, the only thing she had was her husband's love. She absolutely could not lose it. What do you want? Wang Rishan asked after a while. Yi Chu smiled. I want your son. Your husband or your son. Which one will you choose? As you can see, my son only likes Jing Yunjiao. He won't be nice to you at all, Wang Rishan said again. Her heart was filled with hatred. How could she have recruited such a scheming woman? Even if you don't have a good relationship, you are his biological mother. Sometimes he has to listen to you. Yi Chu sneered. She was not interested in money or power. She only wanted to take away what Jing Yunjiao liked. What Jing Yunjiao cared about the most was the Su family, the reputation of the Jing family, and Li Xiaoyan. The reputation of the Jing family was the most difficult to deal with. However, Jing Yunjiao was dead or half-dead and didn't have the ability to manage it. Naturally, those things would disappear like smoke. As for the other two, Yi Chu clenched her fists. She had waited for so long. She couldn't allow any accidents or mishaps. Chapter 1387. That night, Li Xiaoyan stayed with Jing Yunjiao at the old mansion. However, not long after nightfall, Li Xiaoyan received a call from Wang Rishan. Over the phone, Wang Rishan's voice was weak, and she was coughing nonstop. It sounded like she was seriously ill. Jing Yunjiao was curious. Wang Rishan was full of energy during the day. Why did she suddenly look like this? He couldn't help but listen carefully. Xiaoyan, I feel dizzy and uncomfortable. All the servants at home were fired today. Your father isn't here either. Why don't you come home? Wang Rishan coughed. Li Xiaoyan frowned. All the servants were fired? What about that Yi guy? Son, you know I don't have much money on me. How can I afford to keep these servants? However, even if there are servants, they can't compare to my own son. A few days ago, I made some mistakes because of your marriage. I regret it. I know you've been wronged all these years, but sometimes I just can't help it. Oh, right. That Yi Chu, I've chased him out. Can you come over and talk to me? Wang Rushan said, pitifully. I'll bring Ah Zhao back later. She's a doctor. Before Li Xiaoyan could finish, Wang Rushan hurriedly said, don't let her come. I just saw her during the day. Besides, it's not appropriate for her to run around so late at night. I've already taken my medicine. I just want to see you. Oh right, I made some lotus seed porridge today. You were so cute when you were young. I'll get you a bowl when you come back. Also, be careful on the road. After speaking, Wang Rushan hung up without waiting for Li Xiaoyan to refuse. Li Xiaoyan's eyes flashed with indifference. He looked at the phone with some hesitation. No matter what, she was his biological mother. Sometimes he couldn't completely ignore her. Li Xiaoyan's eyes darkened. He took his coat and stood up. I'll be back soon. I'll be back in 2 hours. Okay. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Li Xiaoyan leaned forward and tapped her forehead lightly before leaving. Jing Yunzhao looked at his back and his heart sank. Wang Rushan was fine during the day. She didn't have any illness on her body. Why did she suddenly cough so badly? She was a doctor. In her opinion, there should be a reason for any illness, and there should be signs. If she had a cold or a fever, her voice and complexion should be different from usual before that, but Wang Rushan did not have any of that pretending to be sick. Jing Yunzhao rubbed his temples. After thinking for a while, about 10 minutes later, he took his car keys and left the house. Li Xiaoyan didn't drive very fast. He didn't know if he didn't want to see Wang Rushan, so he deliberately restrained himself. He didn't arrive home until half an hour later. In the past, the Li family would be brightly lit even in the middle of the night. The servants would be even busier at this time. However, tonight was obviously different. It was extremely quiet, and the entire villa was pitch black. Only the dimmest light in the living room was turned on. The house seemed a little desolate. Wang Rushan was sitting on the sofa in the living room with a sickly face. When she saw Li Xiaoyan, she quickly got up and greeted him. Son, you've come? Come and sit down. Wang Rushan wiped her eyes and said. Li Xiaoyan glanced at her and had nothing to say. However, due to his identity, he still walked over. Chapter 1388. The mother and son didn't look alike. Li Xiaoyan looked more like Li Peixian, but Li Peixian lacked some heroic spirit and backbone. Therefore, even if their silhouettes were similar, if they really stood together, people who didn't know would definitely not think that the two of them were father and son. On the contrary, Old Master Li and Li Xiaoyan's temperament was similar. However, it had to be said that Wang Rushan's genes were still good. Although she wasn't magnanimous enough, her appearance was impeccable. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to give birth to such an outstanding child like Li Xiaoyan. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have called you over so late. However, I'm really scared to stay alone in such a big house. You won't blame me, right? Wang Rushan said weakly. Since I'm already here, Li Xiaoyan said in a low voice. Wang Rushan smiled and said, so many years have passed in a flash. The thing I regret the most all these years is that I didn't bring you with me. But seeing that you have a successful career now, I can feel a little relieved. If it was the teenage Li Xiaoyan, he would definitely feel a lot of emotions. However, he had experienced countless life and death situations over the years. Naturally, he didn't feel much emotion towards Wang Rushan's words. In front of his mother, he had a bit of a heart of stone. Seeing Li Xiaoyan leaning on the sofa and not uttering a word, Wang Rushan hurriedly served the porridge and said, Son, Mom has also thought it through. If you like that girl Yunzhao, Mom won't object in the future. That child is very outstanding. Even Mom feels ashamed in front of her. She is someone who can match up to you. Li Xiaoyan still didn't say a word. How is this porridge? I remember when you were young. Every time you came back from the military, you would ask the servant to make this lotus seed porridge. Wang Rushan recalled. Li Xiaoyan stirred the porridge and sneered in his heart. At that time, he was young and still had some expectations for his mother. Naturally, he wanted to seek her attention. Mother, I'm afraid you've forgotten. When I wanted to drink this porridge, You found it troublesome and were angry that I refused to say good things in front of old Master Li. In a fit of anger, you spilled the whole pot of porridge in front of me. The thing that had just boiled splashed on my leg. You didn't even look at it, Li Xiaoyan said. The taste of his porridge was very different from before. At that time, he was full of hope, but now, he was disheartened. When he tasted it again, it was naturally no different from other things. Wang Rushan was stunned for a moment. She seemed to have forgotten this matter. However, after thinking about it carefully, she felt that her son didn't seem to be lying. Back then, there was a period of time when her son didn't appear for a few months in a row, which made her secretly blame the old man for a long time. At that time, I was probably careless, right? In the past, Mom was young and didn't know how to take care of children. Son, don't be angry, Wang Rushan said, awkwardly. Seeing Li Xiaoyan slowly drink the porridge, he heaved a sigh of relief. Even now, you haven't improved much. Li Xiaoyan put down the bowl and continued, since you're here, I'll make things clear. After Ah Zhao and I get married, no matter how many children we have, I don't want you to interfere. It's enough for you to harm me.
You have to stay away from my children.
Xiaoyan, your words are too hurtful. I didn't treat you well in the past, but how can you not let me take care of my grandchildren? Wang Rushan hurriedly said. She still had great expectations for her future grandson. Wasn't her son going to cut off her path of retreat? Do you need me to go through the past with you one by one? Li Xiaoyan's expression didn't change. He looked at her as if he was looking at a stranger. Chapter 1389. The cold eyes made Wang Rushan's heart fall to the bottom of the valley. At this time, she also began to recall the past. But after thinking about it, she didn't find that she had made too many mistakes. At most, she just ignored her son's feelings. But at that time, she wasn't the one raising her son. No matter what, she couldn't get close to him.
You used to.
You were always by the old man's side. Don't blame Grandpa. Li Xiaoyan's eyes were dangerous. I may not remember everything when I was a child, but I still have the memories after 5 or 6 years old. Although I used to follow Grandpa, I came home a lot of times. Every time we met, you only asked me what the old man said, and asked me to do. You didn't care about me at all. You don't know that when I was a child, I broke my leg in the Northwest Army. You don't know that I mistakenly entered the war zone and almost died. You don't even know how many bullets and punches I took. Li Xiaoyan sneered. The only thing you remember is that the old man thinks more and more highly of me. He thinks I'm more and more promising and can give you more and more benefits. Mother, my patience has always been limited. If it wasn't for the fact that your blood flows in my veins, I wouldn't have come to see you even if you were terminally ill, let alone just having a cold, fever, and fear. You and I are mother and son. It's a fact that we can't avoid it. So I hope that we can maintain the previous state of peace and not care about each other. Li Xiaoyan's voice was heavy and somewhat threatening. Wang Rushan's eyes were flustered. Thinking of the bowl of lotus seed porridge her son just drank, she felt a little uneasy. Son,
don't blame me.
Sometimes, mother has no choice. Wang Rushan hesitated. If her son didn't say it, she wouldn't have known that she missed so much in the past. But she couldn't figure it out. If her son had listened to her, then she would have been a happy young master. She wouldn't have suffered so many dangers, right? That kind of bloody thing, even if she asked, she wouldn't have done anything. Caring would only be a burden. Wang Rushan found an excuse for herself. When Li Xiaoyan heard her words, he felt something was wrong. After thinking for a moment, Mother, what do you mean? Just as he finished speaking, his head twitched violently, and he felt a splitting headache. Since he was a teenager, he knew that he had to be on his guard at all times. Although he didn't know much about pharmacology, he was very familiar with the smell of all kinds of medicine on the market. Therefore, he almost never fell for it. Even when he was eating the porridge just now, he carefully smelled it and didn't feel anything wrong. That was why he was so cooperative. Li Xiaoyan rubbed his head. His whole body was hot.
He pulled at his collar.
His eyes looked like he wanted to kill someone. He stared at the woman in front of him who was close yet unfamiliar. He gritted his teeth and said, "Mother, you're really good. You even laid your hands on your own son." Everyone said that in this world, a mother's love was like a mountain. He had seen countless mothers do anything for their children. Unfortunately, his mother was an exception. Xiaoyan, I'm your mother. How could I harm you? This medicine won't harm your life. That girl, Yichu, likes you. Mother thinks that she's quite good. Once the rice is cooked, Jing Yunjiao won't have anything to do with it. She's the only child of the Jing family. If you marry her, you'll be at a disadvantage. Don't tell me you want your child to take her surname and be trampled under her feet for the rest of your life? Wang Rishan hurriedly stood up, took a few steps back and said, "Wang Rishan." Li Xiaoyun yelled out her full name. After that, he suppressed his impulsiveness and hurriedly took out the medicine bottle that Jing Yunjiao gave him to protect himself. Chapter 1390. When Wang Rishan saw this, she panicked. She lost control of herself. She did not know where her courage came from, but she quickly rushed over and scattered all the medicine in his hand on the floor. Then she pushed them all under the sofa. Before using this medicine, she had already tried it on someone else to avoid harming her son's life. Yichu's medicine was surprisingly effective. She did not know where he got it from. After taking it, one would instantly lose all strength. The brain would slowly become unresponsive, and one would even experience hallucinations. Seeing her son like this, her heart ached. However, when she thought of her husband, she could only endure it. This was her son. No matter what, this could not be changed. Even if she made a mistake, her son could not do anything to her. However, if her husband found out that she used to have a childhood sweetheart and had been helping him financially for so many years, then her life would be completely hopeless. After doing all this, Wang Rishan was afraid that Li Xiaoyan would go crazy if the medicine took effect too quickly. Therefore, she immediately turned around and went upstairs. Under the dim light, Li Xiaoyan's eyes were bloodshot. He was a little out of control. It was as if there were countless colorful lights flashing in front of him. The sky was dark, and the earth was a mess. Jing Yunjiao's figure kept appearing, making him feel extremely conflicted. He reached into his bosom and took out the gun that he always carried with him. Almost without any hesitation, he shot at the part of his leg that didn't hurt his bones. In an instant, his whole body was sober because of the pain. The sound of the gunshot shook the inside and outside of the villa. The heat from the shot at close range created a scorching hole in his leg. Everyone inside and outside the house was shocked. Wang Rishan trembled violently. She quickly opened the door and rushed over to take a look. However, at that moment, under the dim light, she saw Li Xiaoyan holding a gun and staring at her. The black muzzle of the gun made her feel cold all over. The murderous intent made her feel even colder. After a few seconds, she fainted with a thump. At the same time, Yichu, who was about to step in, saw this. He gritted his teeth and retreated angrily. He took the opportunity to leave through the window of the house where he was hiding. Jing Yunjiao had benefited from such a man. The other party had a gun in his hand, and she wasn't sure how long he could withstand the effects of the drug. She absolutely couldn't rush forward rashly. Otherwise, not only would she not be able to get this man, she might even lose her life. Li Xiaoyan heaved a sigh of relief when he felt the approaching aura disappear. The medicinal effect had almost reached its limit. Jing Yunjiao had already arrived a few minutes ago. She had been waiting outside the villa until she heard the gunshot. Only then did she rush inside. She saw Li Xiaoyan like a mad lion, his whole body emitting a terrifying, killing intent, causing her heart to tremble. She hurriedly went forward. Sensing her approach, Li Xiaoyan raised his gun again and aimed it at her forehead. Jing Yunjiao did not dare to provoke him. He could only say softly, "It's me.
I'm Ma Zhao."
I'm Ma Zhao. Xiaoyun, relax. Everything will be fine. He repeated it a few times, as if hypnotizing her. When he lowered the gun, Jing Yunzhao's brows relaxed. However, at that moment, Li Xiaoyan rushed over in a scorching and frenzied manner. At that moment, Li Xiaoyan was extremely strong. Other than muttering, "Ah Zhao," he did not seem to be sober at all. He kept attacking her, destroying her fortress bit by bit. Jing Yunzhao was angry at Wang Rishen's actions. She was also extremely embarrassed. She tried her best to remind the man who was not sober enough. In the end, she changed to a different place and entered the house next door. Chapter 1391. The sky was dark, and he forgot himself. He did not sleep the whole night. The next morning, Jing Yunzhao's face was as red as a prawn. She was a little dazed and could not adapt to the sudden change. For so long, although the two of them had been sleeping in each other's arms, they had scrupulously abided by their duties and did not cross the line. Every time she saw how hard Li Xiaoyan was enduring, she was both touched and gloated. In her heart, she did not mind waiting until the so-called wedding night. However, she never thought that Li Xiaoyan would be defeated by the medicine after enduring for so long. She was a doctor. Speaking of which, this medicine was a little strange. She had secretly tried it for Li Xiaoyan yesterday. The medicine was very strong and was very harmful to the body. The few ingredients in it were similar to the secret prescription of the Jing family, but it was more sinister, as if it had been specially modified by someone. Fortunately, she had discovered it early and stuffed the pill into Li Xiaoyan's mouth like candy last night, so the side effects were eliminated. Otherwise, after this indulgence, even a man as fierce as a tiger would definitely need to recuperate for a year and a half.
Ah Zhao.
Jing Yunzhao was thinking when the man beside her moved, as if he was going to press against her again. Li Xiaoyan was annoyed and surprised at the same time. Being schemed against by his own mother was definitely an extremely embarrassing thing, but it gave him a taste of sweetness. However, it was fortunate that Ah Zhao had appeared yesterday. Otherwise, he would not have had a good night. Even if nothing had happened with Yi Chu, his body would have been crippled. Don't move. Did you forget? Your leg is still injured. Jing Yunzhao was speechless. She really did not know if this man was made of stone. How could he not feel pain? Last night, she had been worried the whole night. She had coaxed and threatened to make him obediently stay still and let her apply medicine to stop the bleeding. Otherwise, the bed would be dyed red with his blood. Li Xiaoyan frowned. He seemed to feel the pain after hearing Jing Yunzhao's words. He lowered his head and looked at his leg. After a few seconds, he said, "Ah Zhao, it's been hard on you." "I'm fine." Jing Yunzhao lowered his head and smiled. "But we are in the Li family now. Let's go back early." She really did not want to stay in this place for even a second longer. When she thought about how Wang Rishen had dared to help Yi Chu drug her own son, she felt very disgusted. She wanted nothing more than to strangle that woman to death. However, that woman had used her status as a mother-in-law to prevent her from doing anything. Li Xiaoyan's expression darkened. After putting on his clothes, he walked out the door and saw Wang Rishen looking at the door from the living room. Xiao Yun. Actually, Yi Chu is also a good person, Wang Rishen hurriedly said. She was tearing up as if she was the one who had been wronged. In her eyes, the rice had already been cooked. Even though she hated Yi Chu to the core, the other party's appearance wasn't bad. Her son should be able to fall in love with him. Even if he didn't fall in love with Jing Yunzhao, he should have already ended it with Jing Yunzhao. After all, that woman didn't look like a good person. She definitely wouldn't tolerate her fiancé having sex with another person. Li Xiaoyan's eyelids twitched. He immediately took out his gun and aimed it at Wang Rishen.
Bang!
He pulled the trigger. The bullet brushed past Wang Rishen's ear. She could feel a trace of heat. The strands of hair by her ear were so hot that they curled up a little. Her entire face stiffened, and her eyes widened. She did not even have the courage to tremble. Her son had actually fired the gun. From today onwards, I am no longer your son. The next time you come to bother me, This bullet will not brush past you. Madam Wang, I can't even count the number of people I have killed. One more won't make a difference. Chapter 1392. Li Xiaoyun's expression was cold, and the disgust in his eyes was very obvious. At this moment, Wang Rushan only felt cold all over. From her son's eyes, she could not feel any familial warmth. Her heart tightened, and she knew that this time, she was really drifting away from her son. She could not help but feel a little sad. The proudest thing in her life was finding Li Peixian as her husband, and the one who made her proud the most was this son of hers. Every time her friends mentioned her son, they would look at him with envy. It was a pity that she was not the one who raised him, and this became a way for others to attack her. The father was kind, and the son was filial. In fact, she also hoped to have a close relationship with her son, but the old man insisted on interfering back then, which led to many things that could not be changed. Son, Mom knows she was wrong. Mom promises that she will not mess around in the future. Can you forgive me this time? Wang Rushan's voice trembled, and there was a hint of begging. Of course, she was more afraid. Li Xiaoyun's current attitude made her tremble all over. She felt that in the next moment, there would be another gunshot that would completely kill her. Less than 2 seconds after Wang Rushan finished speaking, Jing Yunzhao walked out of the room. When Wang Rushan saw her, she was immediately dumbfounded. Jing Yunzhao? Why is it you? Yesterday, there was only her and Yi Chu in the house. Shouldn't the person who appeared now be Yi Chu? Why was it Jing Yunzhao? That little girl Wang Rushan fainted early last night, and she did not know that Yi Chu had left in time. When she woke up early in the morning, she was still fantasizing about Yi Chu becoming her daughter-in-law in the future. She still felt uncomfortable in her heart. However, although she felt uncomfortable, when she thought about it carefully, if Yi Chu became a family, as long as there was no conflict of interest, at least she did not have to worry about the fact that she helped her childhood sweetheart get exposed. She had even prepared how to get along with Yi Chu, but when she suddenly saw Jing Yunzhao, a feeling of guilt arose spontaneously, and she felt uncomfortable. Who else could it be? Yi Chu? Jing Yunzhao said coldly, and then directly said, although Xiaoyun is your son, he is also my fiancé. Auntie, since my interests are involved, don't blame me for being rude. I will tell the whole thing to the old man later. I also want to know if the old man can accept a woman like you as his daughter-in-law. She was sure that if Wang Rushan was spending money carelessly, the old man would only turn a blind eye and be too lazy to bother with it. But now that it involved her and Li Xiaoyun's marriage, the old man could not tolerate it no matter what. As a junior, it was indeed inappropriate for her to make a move, but the old man had the right to clean up the house. Hearing Jing Yunzhao's words, Wang Ruochun's expression changed. In an instant, her entire body turned pale and powerless. Her heart was filled with confusion, unable to understand what was going on. What about Yi Chu? She originally thought that once Yi Chu and her son got together, Jing Yunzhao would no longer be a problem. At that time, even if the old man was angry, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. But now, wouldn't she have offended both sides? Jing Yunzhao would not let her go. If her plan failed and Yi Chu did not achieve her goal and flew into a rage out of humiliation, Wang Rushan did not dare to think about it. She had interacted with Yi Chu before. She could not help but feel terrified when she thought of the expression on Yi Chu's face when she took out the powder for her to be drugged. Yunzhao. Seeing Li Xiaoyun and Jing Yunzhao leave, Wang Rushan rushed over. Don't tell the old man. Chapter 1393. Jing Yunzhao loathed Wang Ruochun to the extreme. The moment Wang Ruochun rushed over, she subconsciously tilted her body to the side, causing Wang Ruochun's entire body to fall onto the floor, looking extremely pathetic. She had been the wife of a wealthy family for far too long. In all these years, she had never been in such a sorry state. Her heart was filled with anger and fear. Enduring the feeling of embarrassment, she tugged at Jing Yunjiao's ankle and begged, "Yunjiao, just take it as Auntie begging you."
Don't tell the old man.
She knew that Li Xiaoyun's son listened to Jing Yunjiao. If Jing Yunjiao agreed to let this matter go, then her son wouldn't care too much. Therefore, although she was extremely unwilling, she still had to please this future daughter-in-law in front of her. How could Jing Yunjiao not understand what Wang Rishan was thinking? At this moment, he only felt that it was ridiculous. If you dare to do something, then you have to admit it. Auntie Li, when Xiaoyan came out of the room just now, you probably forgot that he shot himself last night to protect himself, right? You don't care about your son, but I do. If I don't settle this score, I won't be able to sleep and eat in peace in the future. After all, it's hard to guard against a thief in the family. How do I know what you will do in the future? Jing Yunjiao said coldly. After saying that, he directly pulled out his leg and left with Li Xiaoyan. Li Xiaoyan was also a person who cared about his face. In other words, in front of her, he wouldn't appear too ugly. With such a big bloody hole in his leg, he was still standing upright, which made her feel even more jealous. How could this be the only place on his body that he had experienced so much pain? As a mother, Wang Rishan had never cared or asked about it. Although she had never met her mother, she knew that if her mother was still alive, she would definitely dote on her very much. This was because sometimes when she talked with her father, he would talk about how a mother was when she was pregnant. Loving and caring for the child first, this was what a mother should be like. As for Wang Rishan, she only provided good genes in terms of appearance. Apart from that, there was nothing else. As soon as Jing Yunjiao and Li Xiaoyan left, Wang Rishan collapsed to the ground, not knowing what to do. Her husband had been sent out by her and would not be back for a while. This big house was empty, which made her panic. After a while, she was like a headless fly, walking around the house, smashing countless tea sets and knocking over several glasses of red wine. Her tears could not stop falling, but she could only wait for the judgment to come. Jing Yunjiao was a man of his word. After returning home, he went directly to the old man's place with Li Xiaoyan and told him the whole story. It wasn't appropriate for the two of them to handle this matter, so it was necessary for the old man to step in. When Grandpa Sheng heard that his daughter-in-law had chased him out, he was so angry that he couldn't speak for a long time. Then he directly called Li Peixian. Li Peixian often lived outside. For example, when the husband and wife quarreled, he always felt that quarreling with women was an annoying thing. Therefore, every time he quarreled with Wang Rishan, he would go to another house to rest. A few days later, Wang Rishan personally called him to apologize before he went back. This time was the same. His wife inexplicably sent out goods, which made him very angry. However, he didn't expect that his wife was angry to send him out. Grandpa Sheng rarely called his son in front of him, so he had already expected that there would be a problem along the way. However, when he arrived and heard Grandpa Sheng tell him the truth, Li Peixian was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1394. He couldn't believe that his gentle wife had actually drugged his own son. Li Peixian wasn't close to his son, but he was still a father. Although he had always wanted his son to replace him with a new position, in his heart, his son was irreplaceable and extremely important. Men valued their sons more than women. At the same time, they were more protective of their children. If his wife had only drugged his son, it wouldn't have been a problem. But the old man had said that it was fortunate that Jing Yunjiao had appeared. Otherwise, his son would have been greatly affected. Today, she could drug her own son for the sake of a wild girl. What about another day? Wouldn't she be able to poison Li Xiaoyan to death? Dad, I'll teach her a lesson when I get back. I really didn't expect her to do something like this. Don't worry, I promise there won't be a next time, Li Peixian thought angrily. Peixian, do you think that I've let you down? The old man did not respond to his question and changed the topic. When Li Peixian heard this, he was stunned. He didn't understand. What do you mean? I know I've been suppressing you all these years, making you feel uncomfortable. But do you understand why I'm doing this? The old man asked with a sigh. You think I'm not capable enough. Li Peixian lowered his head. That's only part of it. The old man glanced at him and said, even if you were as talented as Xiaoyan, I would still stop you.
Why?
Li Peixian was confused. I'm already in a high position. To put it simply, I only need to raise my hand, and the entire military world will tremble. But is it a good thing to be in a high position? If I hadn't relinquished my power and secluded myself from the world, you wouldn't have been able to survive until now. If even you hold the most important position, you'll become a target for others. The moment the balance of power changes, our Li clan will be the first to be eliminated. That is why I didn't do anything when your mother allowed you to do whatever you want. You are also a father. Although you aren't close to Xiaoyan, you should know very well that this son of yours is irreplaceable. The same goes for you, said the old man. Li Peixian paused for a moment and pursed his lips. He didn't understand why the old man suddenly said this. However, he had to admit that at this moment he was indeed a little emotional. In the past, he had always felt that not only did the old man not have any fatherly feelings for him, he even hated his existence. You are my sons. When you were young, I took you to climb mountains and catch birds. I also wanted to raise you into a hero of the generation. But this person has to look at the long term. My status is not much lower than Chigua's. Think carefully, what if he had an extremely capable son? Old Master Li suddenly became more talkative. I'm willing to let Xiaoyan work hard because I'm old. But you can't. If you want your children and grandchildren to live a good life and prosper, you have to be content with what you have. Old Master Li nodded. Li Peixian's hands fell to his sides. Father, it's not that I don't understand these things, but you... Why did you suddenly... I know, but I still have some fantasies in my heart. People should always have some pursuits, right? What your wife did this time was a little too much. You should make a choice. Either you divorce her and send her out to live the rest of her life alone, or you two go together and be companions. I've already chosen the place. There are a few islands under Xiaoyan's name. The scenery there is beautiful. If you go there, you can forget about ever coming back. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.